underneath all of that where they can't see. They need to vent that, get that out. So they can extinguish that. But again, all indicators that this is very much still an hour and change into it, and a very active response where fire crews on the ground and the incident command is considering two things. They have to put the fire out, the initial response, and of course they have to consider any sort of life-saving measures that need to be taking place down there on the ground.
And I have to say, Ken, one of the things that I love that you bring to this is your expertise, because you were a volunteer firefighter in former life.
Yeah,
yes,
sure.
Exactly. So you have a real good understanding of exactly what these guys are doing, the way they're doing it, how they're approaching it, and also you know, what we're seeing here. You mentioned, you know, the bricks. You know, it's indicative of a blast of some sort.
Of some sort, right.
Yeah.
We heard that possibly it was a natural gas explosion. We don't know that. I mean, we're checking in with Atmos as well. You know, and these are things. I'll tell you what, though, if it is in fact, if that's what it turns out to be, this is not going to be the first time in any kind of recent memory, at least. I mean, we've been reporting on these kinds of things happening throughout the city of Dallas. You know,
2 or 3 times in the last few months.
Just recently, right? Just within this year. So if this turns out to be another one, you know, there's going to be some serious questions that we need to ask about, you know, when it comes to infrastructure throughout the city of Dallas as it pertains to this. We don't want to jump to that just yet because we don't know that for certain.
So if you are just joining us, we do want to let you know this is a huge fire, and we believe an explosion that happened at this apartment complex, the Clyde Apartments. This is at East 9th and North Patton. And as Ken was mentioning, this is like in the eastern part, right, of the Bishop Arts District?
Just east of it, yes. Yeah,
so this is north of the zoo. This is, if you're familiar with the area or maybe not familiar with the area, it's right by Adamson High School. You can see the football field right there. And this is the nearest big cross streets might be Zhang and Davis. Again, some sort of an explosion, we believe, happened at this 2-story apartment complex that you can tell just by looking, fully engulfed in flames. More than 100 firefighters, or nearly 100 firefighters, we're told, tackling this fire now, and really from all angles, from the ground and an aerial attack, as you can see, from again, different angles.
Yeah, and it's going to go on for a while, probably throughout the evening, really, at this point. Even if they get the initial attack under control, they're going to have to make sure that there are no hot spots and that there aren't any possibilities of a reignition happening later on in the day, especially if this is, in fact, something where there's an active gas line that might be fueling this. You know, then that adds another level of problems for these firefighters.
And you might be able to answer this question, because I noticed, you know, like, for instance, from that aerial attack, from that ladder right there, the fire's coming out in one stream. They're not, it's not like here over to the top of the screen, the top of your screen right now, you can see it's kind of moving around a little bit. They're moving it in different areas. And I'm wondering, it looks like they've got like a little utility shed maybe, or some sort of at the the back side of this apartment complex. They don't seem to be too concerned about putting out the flames there, but are really concentrating on the center part of the building.
They probably have a sort of a core section of that building that they're focusing in on. So what they're doing with those streams is they're hitting the bottom of it and kind of in a sweeping motion to try and get that. You know, that's a basic maneuver that firefighters use. As far as the shed in the back, perhaps they just can't get those streams to it all the way in the back. I don't know why. That's still going. But, you know, to the point that you were making earlier about them making some progress, we're starting to see, if you notice here, you know, because we've been watching it for at least a few minutes now, pay attention to the color of the smoke and the way that it's changing. Right. Because when we first saw this, it was thick black, and that means that a lot of these things were burning, a lot of wood, a lot of combustibles, a lot of furniture. This means now that they're making headway in extinguishing it, and that's why the color of it is.
And you just saw that firefighter move that couch all the way across the street. You just want to basically remove anything that has the potential to burn.
Yeah, I mean,
just get it out of there
if you can.
Yeah.
Again, you know, this is all hands on deck, like we said. We've got 100 firefighters there on the ground, and they're all working on the same mission right now, is to try and get those flames out. We haven't heard much in the way of search and rescue operations at this point, but you know, you wouldn't be able to go in there under these conditions anyway. So you know, that would be the next thing. And that's a concurrent, you know, concern right now that firefighters are having, and they're probably going to start making their way in. I keep looking at the firefighters down below. You see them?
Sure, yeah.
Kind of removing some of the debris, some of the rubble. That kind of activity, that kind of movement leads me, especially that many in one area, leads me to believe that perhaps this is the beginning of a search and rescue operation, and they're trying to just use their hands to get as much as quickly as they can off, so that they can start making their way a little further into the footprint of.
So is that what they're trying to to do, or are they concentrating
That's
on
what
that
it looks
specific area? Because there is a lot of debris under where they are.
That's what it looks like to me, you know, but the only people that would really know for sure is, you know, the incident command on the staff, you know, if they get any initial reports on the ground of where people may have been. I don't know if this building was vacant or not at the time that this happened. I don't know if there were people inside. It did happen right in the middle of the day, so you want to think that perhaps people who live there, if it was a fully occupied building, that maybe they were at work.
Hopefully, yeah.
Or they weren't there. You know, all those factors come into play when you're thinking about search and rescue operations, when you're thinking about getting to people and getting to them quickly. But, you know, again, first things first, you see, I mean, and you can see the flames are mostly gone now. A big difference from what we saw, 10 minutes ago? Is that when it went on air? About 10 minutes ago?
Yeah, probably, yeah. I'm sorry, I wasn't even looking at the clock. But, but again, we do know, you mentioned search and rescue. We do know one person has been taken to the hospital, but DFR tells us that that number could easily change depending on the number of people who were inside the apartments at the time of the incident, which again, they got the call at 12:47. So this has been going on for about an hour and 15 minutes that they've been tackling this fire. And when we first joined you, when we first interrupted programming, this building was fully engulfed in flames, flames shooting from everywhere. And that's why I mentioned earlier that it seems like they are making some headway, because I would think it's much better to see that white smoke than it would be to see flames coming out of the building at this point.
The location of all of this, again, also just east of the very popular Bishop Arts Entertainment District, also just north of the Dallas Zoo. We did check in with the zoo, by the way. Our producers are telling us that the Dallas Zoo is not reporting any kind of disruptions. They are monitoring the situation, and specifically they're monitoring all of the smoke.
Sure.
Obviously, they have animals out there, and they have to worry about the well-being of the animals at the zoo as well. So depending on which way the wind might be blowing out there, you know, these plumes of smoke might be headed down into the area of the zoo. Maybe, maybe not, but that's something that they're saying they're keeping a very close eye on, and that they are also monitoring. But again, look, this is what I was telling you.
Yeah, they're pouring water on.
And they're you know, they're going, you know, any piece that they can grab, they're pulling out of there.
Moving it.
So, you know, and they're moving with some sort of, you know, expediency here. So that, I mean, to me, an urgency. So to me, this looks like the beginning stages of a search and rescue operation, at least to my eye.
Yeah, I was hoping, because obviously I don't want to think about anybody possibly being trapped under there, but my hope is that it's, as you mentioned, maybe trying to vent the fire, to make sure that, you know, get water to these places, because you don't want any heat and flames that may be below that to cause another explosion.
So, I mean, you know, the other thing you have to consider is, you know, the safety of the firefighters that are this close to, you know, all of that, the fire, the heat, the smoke, all of these pieces of debris. I mean, God knows just how sharp some of these things are. So, you know, for them to be putting themselves in that kind of danger, to me also speaks of another sort of a heightened level of urgency. So, you know, why would they do that? And that usually is to preserve life and property, is what firefighters are taught.
Sure.
You know, when you sort of analyze taking this kind of a risk and this kind of an effort. But again, look, you see right there, they're just pulling pieces of plywood. And trying to hit smoke. So, you know, it could be that they know that there's maybe more embers, more fire underneath there. Or perhaps, like I said, the only other thing that I can think of is maybe some sort of a search and rescue.
And you know, we were talking about the proximity of this apartment complex. I mean, it's abutted next to another apartment complex, and then it looks like a single-family dwelling.
And then on the other side, a four-story apartment.
That,
I mean, you get a little bit of everything down there when it comes to the buildings and everyone just kind of living real close to each other. What we also saw, let's see if it can pan out. Here we go. So as the chopper pans out, if you look over to the right side of the screen there, you can see some of the debris that has also sort of crossed over to the other side of the street. So you start to consider now, you know, obviously we're worried and we're concerned about anybody who was in the immediate area where this happened. But, you know, if this was in fact a blast that was powerful enough to send those pieces of bricks and
onto the sidewalk.
Who maybe was walking by, you know? Who was present in the area that could have possibly also been hit by some of this? You know, and again, these are all things that, you know, it's easy for us to talk about right now because we're seeing these aerial video images and this video coming in from the chopper. But, you know, these are things that crews on the ground, they're having to assess all of this in real time and formulate a game plan as to how they're responding to all.
And look at that. I don't know if, well, I don't know how it got there, but it looks like, you know, a gate or some sort, or like a door, like a metal, you know, screen door or something like that. And you have to wonder if it was put there because the firefighters were dragging it away, or if it blew there.
Well, I'll tell you what, it's not going to be long before we start hearing from witnesses and folks down there if they in fact heard a blast, if they felt it,
Right.
you know, and all indicators right now, the fact that the call initially came in as such, you start seeing some of the obvious evidence out here, and if we start hearing from witnesses pretty soon, which I presume will happen any moment now, if we haven't already started hearing from them, that they did feel some sort of a blast, that they did hear some sort of a big explosion. Stepped outside, and this is what they encountered. But again, I mean, when it comes to a response to a structure fire, I mean, this is kind of as big as they get. You know, when you've got an entire building like that,
Right.
there's no saving it.
Oh, and there goes a wall. And that was one of the things I know our newsroom kind of, you know, everybody sat up straight when we got the word that it was an apartment complex, an entire apartment complex that was up in flames. It's always unnerving and disconcerting, simply because you know that, you know, with people's lives today, you know, if these folks might work the night shift, and so they're home, you know, sleeping, you know, getting ready to work the night shift, or, you know, school's out, you know, kids might be, you know, at home, you know, just taking part in everyday activities now that they're not in school.
Yeah, you start thinking of all of these things, and you just hope that it's the least of the concerns that we can sort of come up with right now.
Right.
But
it was a smaller. It looked like a smaller type of. I mean, when you consider what an apartment complex, most people think of a complex. This this was a building, an apartment building, a two-story, older. Looking apartment building that had probably been, you know, remodeled, rehabbed, and
from what was left of it, it looked like one of those like garden-style apartment complexes. And again, you're right. We say the word complex because that's what they are. But what we're not talking about is an apartment campus, as we see sometimes.
Exactly, like the newer,
Right. Certainly did look to be older in age. The building smaller in size, but I mean, look at what's right next to it. You know, a newer one.
Sure.
Probably twice as tall, and then what looks to be a single-family home. Looks like you got a couple of cars parked along the street. One of these cars in the driveway as well. But look at the roof of the house off to the left.
With all the debris on top of the roof.
Look at all the debris.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, you know, how did it get there?
Yeah.
Right. And then you start thinking, okay, well, there probably is something to these initial reports of this being the result of an explosion.
Right.
I can tell you that from what we're seeing here, these firefighters that you see up on the ladders, they're going to be there for a while. The aerial attack allows them to get a specific angle into sort of the core where the fire would be that other firefighters on the ground can't get on their own. And they're probably applying some sort of a water and a foam mixture.
Retardant.
Right, to try and, it's much more effective than just water.
Right.
It's a mixture of foam and water.
How do they do it? How do they mix that? I mean, because usually, you know, you just see them, you know, attach the hose to the hydrant. How do they?
Yeah, well, it's a mixture. The hose to the hydrant then goes into the engines or the trucks, and
that's where
where the mixture happens, and then it kind of comes out the other side. And
so, sorry, that is part of the wall from the apartment complex on top of.
Looks like a full wall panel.
Yeah, on top of the roof of the neighboring house.
Still, yeah, right.
Yeah, which again, it doesn't.
This must have been. I mean, it had to have been a blast.
A blast.
It had to have been a blast,
Yeah.
and it must have been a huge one.
Right.
Because the whole place is leveled now. I don't think there's anything standing.
You know, and I'm looking at some of these firefighters and just the amount of smoke that's coming from this building. And they have made huge strides in tackling this fire, because when we first went on the air, as you mentioned about 25 minutes ago, there were just flames everywhere. Now what we're mostly seeing, at least from our vantage point, is smoke. But these firefighters, the ones on the ground at least, I'm not seeing them wearing masks, you know, the respirators. I'm seeing you know, just the firefighters in their other gear, but you have to hope that the guys on the ladders who are attacking it aerially.
No, they are.
Because the smoke is just coming right at him.
He's got his air packs. Some on the ground also have their air packs. I can't tell if they have their masks on them or not. But, you know, the other thing to take into consideration, you talk about why so many firefighters, they're probably going to need more than
they're rotating in and out. You can see the guys at the bottom left of the screen.
Right. So, you know, just so you know, those air packs that they work in, that they put on, you know, depending on the physical shape of each individual firefighter, they can last anywhere between 12 to 20 minutes at a time of air.
Okay.
And that's it. It's not indefinite, you know. And so at that point, you have to start switching out or switching out air bottles as well. So when you consider that, you start thinking, you know, these firefighters are going to get pretty fatigued.
So take a look at the screen right now, Ken. Our Skycam shot. Look how, I mean, the smoke that is diminished. I mean, it really has compared to where we were 15 minutes ago.
Well, yeah, exactly. And at that point, I mean, we were talking about a straight plume of heavy black smoke going straight up.
Right.
Now it's, you know, obviously it's changed color. It's not a full cloud anymore. There's some break in it, and it's sort of shifting off. I think that looks like it's maybe to the east there. That plume of smoke. So again, all indicators that fire crews are making a lot of progress in putting this fire out and extinguishing it. As they say, getting the wet stuff onto the hot stuff, right? And that's an easy way that firefighters talk about this kind of operation. But they're making great work of this. I can tell you this is not an easy operation by any means for any responding crews right now. And you more than likely, you know, have also search and rescue crews, paramedics, and other kind of EMTs standing by. So as soon as they're given the all clear that this is safe now to move forward, they can come in there and participate in some more of these search and rescue operations that we've talked about.
Okay, yeah, and they finally are tackling that what I'm guessing to be a utility shed or something at the back of the apartment complex. And look at the brick everywhere, the brick that we see. I mean, it just
and again, another car back
shattered.
there. So, you know, I don't know. You know, it's hard to tell, you know, just how occupied this was at the time that this happened, because we see a couple of cars out there. You know, you want to think that maybe, you know, whoever owns those cars was inside or nearby. I mean, that's kind of where your mentality goes in all of this. But I certainly hope that it wasn't full, because then we're talking about something completely different than just a fire and smoke and debris. I mean, we're talking about the loss of life or serious injuries.
And we just have to pray that that's not the case. But we do know that one person has been taken to the hospital. But as DFR has told us that, you know, it's very possible that those numbers might change. And here you can see DPD cordoning off this area, trying to keep away the curious, those folks you know, who are concerned about what's going on in their neighborhood. Again, this is the Clyde Apartments. This is at East 9th and North Patton. This is in the Bishop Arts District, just north of the Dallas Zoo. If you're wondering, you know, where the nearest, the major cross streets, we're talking about Zhang and Davis. This is a two-story apartment complex in what looks to be an explosion that has completely, the building was completely engulfed in flames when we joined you about 30 minutes ago now. This is right across from Adamson High School. Our helicopter, you know, was panning over it. So at one point, you can see a very clear view of the football field. So it's very close to a lot of things, including single-family house on one side and a four-story apartment complex on the other.
Yeah, you know, we were talking about 100 firefighters in the initial response, the two alarm, but I bet that's probably getting close to at least doubling at this point.
Yeah.
When you take a look at this. But look, you know, now that some of the smoke is clearing, some of it, I mean, clearly there's still a lot. Look what's left. It's not much. I mean, it's just, at this point, it's just it looks like a big pile of charred out, burnt debris. That's all it is.
And so once they do get the fire under control, get most of the flames out, you might still have hot spots. They'll be tackling that. What is the next step in the process? You can see these firefighters here. They're hauling debris away. And Ken, as you mentioned, you know, you have to hope they're not in there looking for people, but that is a fear, certainly a definite fear.
With this amount of firefighters that you see there's probably multiple operations going on at one time. And we're thankful that, you know, Dallas has the kind of fire department that they do, with the kind of personnel ready to go, and sort of their training to do all of this, because the things that are going on all at the same time right now are obviously, you have the fire suppression effort, which is to put out the flames. Then you've got firefighters at the same time working to protect nearby exposures. You don't want those flames to catch a nearby building on fire, and that's a real possibility here.
Because the buildings are so close.
They're so close, right? And if there's any sort of, like I said, any sort of explosion that carried fire or an ember on a piece of wood or on a piece of material of roofing or something that, you know, hopped over to the next thing, you know, now you have the possibility of that happening. And then lastly, the other thing that is certainly being talked about right now is how do they assess this for any sort of search and rescue efforts, right? Because right now this is not a situation in which they could go inside. I also use the word inside loosely because what is inside anymore?
Right.
I mean, it's collapsed.
Right.
You know, but you know, are they receiving reports on the ground? Is the incident commander receiving reports on the ground that there were people inside?
Right.
Maybe not. More so, you know, it's more than likely that they are. And perhaps that's what you're seeing right now, is you're seeing all these firefighters kind of gathered around. They're pulling to see if there's anybody underneath some of this rubble, as the other crews continue to work on putting out that fire and protecting those exposures.
And I would think that would be a very difficult thing to try to determine just exactly how many people might be inside that building. Again, because we don't know. It's like you don't know everybody's individual patterns, their individual lifestyles, what it is that they do day in, day out on it. Yeah.
But I can tell you, though, to that point, Karen, though, whether there's one person in there reported or a dozen of them, it doesn't matter to these firefighters. One or a dozen, it is worth them going on with these efforts. They're going to do what they're doing because this is what they're trained to do.
And this has got, look how the building is kind of listing part of it right there. I mean, it's you can see it's leaning. I would think that would be a really a dangerous situation for these firefighters because you don't know when a wall at this stage is going to collapse.
You know, but again, there's this philosophy in firefighting that if there's life worth saving, worth preserving, you know, you increase the risk in which you expose yourself to. Like you said, you got to do it. So if they're doing this, knowing that partially standing piece of roof is sort of leaning over their head, these are all indicators to me that they have some kind of information down there that requires them to be doing this, because otherwise you would pull them back and you'd say, hey, you know, we've got this with the hoses.
Right. And look how they're concentrated. You've got at least 20 firefighters right here, it looks like to me, and they're concentrated in this one area. And the four corners of the building, they're in this one corner.
And unfortunately, whenever you've seen just images that come in from other types of disasters that look like this, you know, whenever you've seen bridge collapse, whenever you've seen other buildings come down, I'm thinking of what happened in Miami. I'm thinking of, you know, other buildings that have just kind of exploded or come down. When you see that kind of activity, that usually indicates that they're working off of some kind of information that perhaps somebody's still underneath all of that rubble, and that's why they're doing that.
Right. And they have been at it again. They got the first call at 12:47. So you're looking at a little over an hour and a half now. And they're continuing to work. This
came in, we just heard from Dallas Fire. This has now been officially upgraded to what is known as a 4-alarm fire. We reported that I think the initial call went out as 2. As soon as they responded, it became a 3 once they laid eyes on it and realized what it was, and now we're up to 4. The 4, to me, speaks to the additional manpower that they need down there, and equipment that they need for 2 things: to handle what's going on here and to inevitably start cycling out some of the firefighters, because they need to come out. You know, they cannot work for an hour or 2 hours on end. You know, there's not enough air in those tanks, and all the gear and you know, sort of dangers that they're exposed to requires that they cycle in and out. So when you go to a 4th alarm fire, we were saying before they had about 100 firefighters on the ground, and that's exactly what I was trying to tell you. When you go to a 4th, you're going to have a whole lot more than 100, especially for something like this. You know, most firefighters working on the ground, like you see, you know, they're working 20, 25 minutes at a time tops, unless there's some sort of specialized crew with specialized equipment. But you know, the initial firefighters that would have responded to this are going to be some of those firefighters that, you know, work in 20, 25 minutes. That's before you get, and I'm specifically talking about some, you know, major cities, major municipalities have like, you know, urban search and rescue crews that are specialized in this. But even they wouldn't go in there while there's still active smoke and fire.
Right. And you know, it's got to be hard for them too to be able to see through that smoke. You know.
Oh yeah. Yeah, and so I
need that smoke to dissipate a little bit more.
I think what you're seeing is, you know, they're focused on one area because perhaps that's the area that they've deemed that requires the most attention to. But what we're also seeing is, you know, these aerial ladders where they're positioned, one to the left, one directly above, and a couple of, you know, hoses or ground lines, as they're so often called, you know, sort of attacking from different angles to try and, you know, just get this fire out. And I got to tell you, from what we first saw, you know, just maybe 20, 25 minutes ago now, I mean, they have definitely made you know, a huge advance in where we were.
What do you suppose they're doing there? Is that related to what's going on at the bottom of the screen?
Not sure.
It didn't
I
look
was
like
wondering
it was,
that too. That seems in a lot of place. I don't know, to be honest with you.
But you would think that they wouldn't be doing work while you've got 100 firefighters.
No. I'm told that we have an interview with a witness who heard it and saw it all. We understand that this interview that you're about to hear is in Spanish. We are going to play it out for you, and then I'll go ahead and translate it as soon as we get done with it. So let's go ahead and have a listen, and I'll translate this for you.
¿Qué será? Soy reportera con Canal 11. Solo, ¿qué oíste? Explícame un poco.
Muy fuerte, un golpe. Y salimos allá a ver qué era, porque pensamos que había chocado algo y no, era mucho humo para acá.
Ajá.
Vinimos a ver y ya habían explotado.
¿Y viste a muchas personas corriendo?
Corriendo, saliendo.
Ajá.
Gritando.
¿Y qué más vistes?
Pues nada más eso.
¿Y gente gritando?
Sí, salió una gente de ahí gritando.
Y dicen que tal vez era con gasolina.
Un señor sacó una niña de ahí arriba, ahí la tienen de aquel lado.
¿La viste?
La niña ahí está de aquel lado, la tienen ahí.
¿O de verdad? ¿Dónde están?
Están de aquel lado, el muchacho que la sacó, de arriba de los apartamentos.
¿Y él le salvó a la niña?
Sí, pues estaba dentro y la sacó. Pues no sabe si habrá más gente allá.
So the gentleman that our reporter, I think that was Marissa Armas, was interviewing, he was saying that he heard a strong blast, that he saw people running, people screaming, even jumping. I don't know if that was from a nearby building or where he would have seen that from, but the thing that really stuck out to me at the tail end of that interview, Karen, he talks about a girl being saved. He witnessed a girl being rescued.
Wow.
And Marissa asked him, did the girl seem to be alive to you? Did they save her? And he said, yeah, absolutely. And then they kind of whisked her away.
Wow.
And they took her away. So I mean, that's just one sort of eyewitness account from a gentleman who was in that area. But this is what I was telling you, especially with social media now. It wouldn't be surprised me if there's a lot more of these sort of accounts that are happening out there right now, with people who saw this, who heard it, and firsthand got a look and a listen at to what this would have been like.
You know, we saw a minute ago crews that looked like, you know, they were digging along the sidewalk there, and I don't know. I just, I've got my supposition as to what it might be.
Yeah, and so the
firefighters
thing
from the
about,
window
right. Actually, that's a real.
Oh my goodness! Look at
the
blown
buildings.
out.
This is what I was telling you about when we were talking about protecting the exposures.
Look at look how they're blown out in the windows.
Exactly. So obviously, you know, shattered windows. That is, this was a blast.
It was an explosion.
100%, this was an explosion. But you know, when you have you know, sort of structural damage like that, then you start thinking, you know, could fire get in there? Could smoke get in there? And so the issue becomes a lot more than just that one building where it happened, but the one nearby.
Right.
I think it's also you know, important to point out for people who know this area.
That's just sending a drone.
That's a drone. Looks like people who know the area or even don't know the area. I want to revisit the point that you were making about crews digging around and kind of, you know, looking to be doing some work. This is an area, if you're familiar with east of Bishop, right? You start right at Bishop, where all these popular bars and restaurants are. You start moving east. It has so much development going on there. At any time of the day, any day of the week, you've got all kinds of trucks, and you've got utility crews, and you've got people digging and painting and framing buildings and putting up windows and all kinds of stuff. Who knows if any of that had anything to do with it? You know, maybe so. You know, was it something else? I mean, you know, you've got these crews digging now. I wonder if this was in fact a gas line that they're trying to pinch it.
Yeah, that's what I'm wondering too. And I didn't want to say it out loud, but that was my thought. Is like that's the only reason they would be allowed in this area.
There's no way. I mean,
while this is going on,
they're feet away from these firefighters, and they're digging into the ground, and they're doing it quite expeditiously. I'm thinking there's a gas line in there that they're trying to get to, and they're trying to pinch that. So
it's the only thing that makes sense.
Fueling whatever is going on there, because this is an extremely dangerous scene. This is not a time or a place to be allowing any kind of utility crew to get near you unless it has something to do with this.
So let's bring in our Marissa Armas. She joins us now by phone. She is there at the scene. And Marissa, we know that you have been speaking with folks who may have seen or heard what was going on. And I'm curious because the man that you spoke with said that he heard people screaming and running. I guess it makes me wonder, hopefully there were people who were able to get out of this building before it exploded.
Absolutely, and it's still a very active scene here. We are here off of 10th and Denver, and I've been making my way around the area here, and, you know, obviously this is an active scene, so we do have police crews pushing people back because those fumes are continuing to move towards the community here. Now, I did speak with several people in the area. They tell me that it was an explosion. They say that they felt it from 2-3 blocks away. People said that they could feel that rumbling, trembling on the ground there, and then they started to see people run and scream. One man told me that he did see a gentleman run into that apartment building and rescue a young girl. I am being told that about 10 or so families live in that complex, and I actually was able to make my way closer to the building. When I got there, there were still active flames happening, going off. I saw over 40 firefighters in that area, and the impact of this explosion, I mean, it was massive. You could see bricks all scattered throughout the street here in this area. Now, another thing to mention is I have seen natural, gas crews here on the ground. It's unclear, again, if this was caused by a gas explosion, but I have seen those crews here. I did just about 5 minutes ago see, Police Chief Daniel Como here on the ground. And again, still a very active scene. Right now, they are pushing people further away from the situation. Now, when I initially got called to the area, I was about 5 miles away. That plume of smoke up in the sky was a black, huge plume of smoke. I mean, you could see it from further than downtown. Once I got here, a lot of that smoke has now turned white in this area. And again, it is moving, so they are having to move people back. But I just spoke to another woman who said she felt it from a school that's just a couple blocks away. She said it was really scary. And, a lot of people right now don't know what to expect. It's unclear if there are any victims right now. We don't have any of that confirmed, but we're hoping and praying, that everyone is safe here today. But, a lot of the people in this community are kind of hanging out. Again, police and fire officials pushing everyone back. But yeah, right now, a very active situation here, and things on the ground here are still happening. So yeah.
Well, Marissa, I know that you've been doing a great job talking to some of the folks out there, and we really appreciate that, getting their perspective from these folks, like you said, who felt it from 2 blocks away. That's really saying something about, what explosions can do, and grateful to hear the story that the witness that you interviewed, his testimony to you that little girl was saved, and our prayers that she is okay.
Yeah. Hey, Marissa, this is Ken. I don't know exactly what your vantage point is and how much of a clear sight you have. Obviously, you said that a lot of people were being pushed back, but I'm wondering, are you seeing any sort of standby crews in the way of like search and rescue crews or ambulances? Trying to get a sense if maybe they believe more people might possibly be trapped underneath all of this rubble.
Yeah, I know. I did definitely see some ambulances and crews. Now, search crews, I can't say that I saw them actively on the ground. It's not to say that they're not here, right? But I did see ambulances, and when I first got here, I saw some taking off, right? So not sure if they were transporting folks to the hospital or what, but I have seen them here on the ground. Now, another thing to kind of just point out is that, again, I don't know if I've seen a fire of this magnitude outside of wildfires, in a residential area, but yeah. I mean, there had to have been over 40 firefighters here, and we do know that, even Dallas County, fire marshals are here as well. And so, yeah, pretty active scene here. And again, search and rescue we haven't seen yet, but I think the goal, as I was talking to some of the officers and officials on that side, was to first put out those flames. I mean, I'm, again, about a block and a half away. I was able to sneak a little closer. That got me literally across the street, and that's where I saw those active flames. But again, I think when I initially saw that, they were trying to put out those flames. It seems like most of those flames are out now. That was about 30, 40 minutes ago. Yeah. Most of those flames are out now, and so I'd imagine if there is search and rescue efforts going to happen, I'd imagine that those would start here soon.
Yeah, to that point, Marissa, we've got a split screen right now. We've got an aerial shot of the fire, and and then we have up to the left, just so that you know, it appears that we do have a ground camera transmitting live images of what looks to be several, maybe half a dozen, if not more, ambulances that are in fact standing by. And it looks like they're right in front of Adamson High School. So they're standing by, and as you said, typically that's the order of operations in something like this. As soon as it's safe for them to go in there, they're going to be going in as well. And that's why I was asking if you had seen them standing by, because from the helicopter video that we were seeing, we couldn't see many of them, aside from just the firefighters, but actual paramedics and EMTs that are going to go in there. We hadn't seen them, but it looks like they are standing by. Marissa, anything else that you can tell us just from what you can see? I wonder, are there people out and about? I mean, or does it seem to you that maybe they're at work or elsewhere at this hour?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, most of the people who live on that block are here standing with me at a corner, right? A lot of them can't return back to their homes. Some of them say that they saw it on social media first, so they ran over to this area. But in terms of the folks who live there, I haven't been able to make contact with any of the folks who live in that apartment complex. Now, about a block away behind that apartment complex, there were about 30, 40 people gathered in that corner. I wasn't able to make my way out there just because of the perimeters, of course, that fire officials have set up. But yeah, hoping to speak to more folks out here, and again, just hoping and praying that everyone's okay. I like I mentioned earlier, we did hear that there are at least, someone said maybe 10 apartment complexes there, so I'd imagine at least 10 families. And again, hearing already of some of those heroic efforts by some of neighbors who heard people screaming. One woman said that she heard that, a woman was trapped inside. That's not confirmed yet, but hoping and praying that these folks are okay tonight.
Yeah,
Marissa, we'll let you get back to it. We know you've got a long day of reporting ahead of you now, and absolutely, just to echo your sentiment, I mean, I think we're all hoping and praying for the best, because what we're seeing, obviously, is quite devastating right now.
Yeah, I'd say take a look at right now from our Skycam shot, the smoke. It's hard to see, except like there at the horizon.
Very little
yeah, exactly. Very little left. These firefighters are making tremendous progress, and I'm waiting for our chopper to circle back around so that we can see those firefighters, because it seems to me like most of the activity right now is centered in that one quadrant, that one corner of the building where they are. They're concentrating their efforts in moving things around. And Ken, as you mentioned, it looks like. Potentially, probably, they're looking for someone or someones who may be trapped inside.
Just so many thoughts start going through your mind right now. When you reported on this, when you've, like you said, many years ago, trained on these types of things when I worked as a volunteer firefighter. I certainly don't claim to be an expert of any kind, and a lot of those things start to I start to forget some of those things. But some of the things that you don't forget, and some of the things that are very obvious right here, are all the signatures of a would-be explosion.
Right.
You look for certain things, and they're all present right now. And the only thing that I can think of right now when we look at these images is I can't stop thinking about who was nearby.
Right.
Who was directly affected by this? Who was possibly inside that building that might still be underneath all of that rubble. Right now, Dallas Fire Rescue has only confirmed that of one person that they had to take to the hospital. But the initial reports were that there were several injuries, right? And we heard Marissa Armas speaking to an eyewitness there on the ground. He said that they saw them rescue a little girl. I'm not sure if that's somebody who the DFR or the one person that DFR is confirming that they took to the hospital, or if it's somebody else that we just haven't been able to confirm for us yet. But in either event, it's hard to believe when you know this area, you know the time of day, you know the kind of activity that happens there, and we know that this is at least a 10 apartment complex. It's hard to believe that no one else was
inside.
And
of course, the thing that's disconcerting is when you see the cars in the parking lot. And as you mentioned earlier, where are the people that go with the cars? Right. And it's one thing if they're on the street, because they could be going to any of the very close. This looks like, when I say close-knit neighborhood, they're close to each other. They're elbow to elbow. So those cars on the street could, the people could be anywhere. But those that are in the parking lot, then the natural assumption would be that they were at that apartment complex. And
Yeah.
again, this is the Clyde Apartments. This is the East 9th and North Patton. This is in the Bishop Arts District of Dallas. It started as a 2-alarm fire, but quickly moved to 3 and then 4 alarms. More, they say nearly 100 firefighters who are tackling this fire, and they've done a tremendous job of getting these flames out, because it was fully engulfed in flames when we first went on the air with this almost an hour ago. And they're attacking it both aerially. You can see the ladder trucks there and the streams of fire coming from, so aerially from these ladder trucks on the ground, and then also from the 3rd floor unit of the neighboring apartment complex, both trying to tackle the flames of that very close by apartment building, and presumably to keep the flames from leaping over to that building.
I mean, Karen, this must have been a very, very hard and just a massive blast when you see just how much debris and
you can see the blinds in the windows
fact,
that are crumpled.
Well, and the fact that by the time that the helicopter got over this, when we were starting to get our first images, you know, it was practically gone, and then we saw the last little bit of.
See, this is the video from earlier when we first went on the air. I'm sorry to interrupt you, but wanted to show folks.
That's fine, because we're going to compare that in a second here.
Right.
So right there, this is gone. I mean, this, you know, there's no saving this, right?
Right.
But you can see the pieces of it starting to crumble, but at least you can see that it still has its sides, right?
Yes.
The roof has collapsed, but it still has its sides. We're going to pull out here in a second, and we'll show you just within, you know, 5, 10,
Look at
15
the black
minutes.
smoke. Look how thick the black smoke
And then
is.
the whole thing just crumbles. I mean, there's just nothing standing anymore.
Right. Yeah, it doesn't look like any interior walls left anymore. And
I mean, look at that. Look at that debris field right there. Everything that was standing is on the ground now.
Right.
By that point. And again, these images, folks, these are not live. This is a live picture.
This is a live shot,
This
okay.
one is a live picture. So we're going to see if Chopper can kind of swing around there. We can get a better.
Did something
better
just fall?
view.
It looks like one of the exterior walls may have just fallen just this second.
I mean, maybe. But but look, I mean, we've got. You can see one firefighter. He's fighting the fire.
From that third floor window.
Third floor window.
Yeah. And look at the blinds above
ran a
him,
hose up,
to the right of him, to the left of him. The blinds are crumbled. It's like somebody did with a giant fist, just took them and smashed them. And
again,
crushed them.
we talk about, you know, the evidence and the signatures of a blast, and you know they're all there.
It's right there.
They're all present. I mean, we don't have to guess too much.
Right, bricks on the sidewalk and parts of the wall on the neighboring rooftops.
Right. And then plus on top of that, the fact that, you know, neighbors who did see and hear it, I mean, that they're echoing about the same. So.
And we're told that they're keeping our chopper at a little bit of a distance, so we can't get
Can't swing around
those,
like
those
earlier.
nice views that we had earlier.
We're going to continue to zoom in and give you the best sort of vantage point that we can. But again, if the chopper, you're right, if the chopper's being kept back.
Ken, even though we're not seeing the flames, the flames, you can still see those hot spots there, and we can still see the smoke rising. Is this and this is something that you say that they will continue to throw water in the fire retardant on top of what's smoldering.
Right. So what it looks like right now is that the initial fire response, they have it under control. They've been able to suppress, and they've been able to put out the majority of the flames. What we don't see here are going to be those hot spots that you're talking about. And inevitably, in a fire this big, with this much debris, when you're talking about a collapsed building, these hot spots, these embers, you know, whatever you want to call them, they're going to be hiding underneath pieces of wood, pieces of furniture, pieces of concrete that perhaps, you know, the firefighters can't see. So at some point, you know, the operation here will move into, you know, sort of a hotspot removal. And so they're going to be here for a while, is what I'm saying. This isn't something that they're going to wrap up in the next 20 or 30 minutes. And, you know, we can't forget about the fact that we saw all of those ambulances standing by, and that we see all of those crews also standing by, removing pieces of debris by hand, one by one. And again,
Couches, moving them across the street.
And again, to me, that's an indicator of the other side of the coin of this response, which is a search and rescue effort that's taking place right now. Until they can confirm that no one is inside there. They're operating on initial information, initial assumptions of who would have been in there at that hour, and maybe any information that any neighbors or property managers are giving over to fire crews. And that's why you see the kind of response that you do when it comes to you know, possible search and rescue. But look, that's the live shot I was telling you. You see all those. Those are all ambulances that are standing by, because as soon as they're able to get in there, or as soon as they're needed, they're ready to go should these firefighters on the ground start to come across any potential victims.
And you have to just appreciate the fact and be so grateful for the fact that yesterday was the last day of school. And
Say that again, Karen.
I'm so glad that yesterday was the last day of school, because look at the proximity.
Yeah.
You're looking at Adamson High School, and you know, there are other elementary schools, feeder schools nearby, and
you know, you just think about any of the schools in our area and the kind of activity that takes place during you know, the last hours, the last moments of school, and you start thinking about the kind of people that could be walking along those sidewalks.
Absolutely.
Parents that could be picking people up.
Right.
You know, I'm sure that's not lost on a lot of people, Karen.
Yeah.
That point that you're making.
Yeah.
We also saw, I don't know that we're going to get another, we're going to try and get another view of it if the helicopter is allowed to swing around. But Karen, you pointed out something really interesting, and that was those utility crews that seem to be strangely digging up way too close to this.
Yeah. Just along the sidewalk in front of, it looks like the house that's right here
makes
that's
it
abutting
seem like
this.
there's some sort of a gas line that they need to pinch immediately.
Yeah.
Because obviously that, you know, when you got this going on, there's no way that a regular utility crew or a gas crew is going to be allowed to get in there and do their day-to-day work.
The police have put up tape, you know, to keep people away. They're not going to let in.
And we just heard from Marissa that, as a matter of fact, they're pushing the perimeter back even further.
Sure.
So they're asking folks to stay even further back from their initial response. But again, this went to a 4th alarm. We were reporting when it was at 2 alarm. We were reporting about 100 firefighters there on the ground. So
yeah, I think
4 alarms is probably going to be double.
Well, I think that we just weren't told that it was a 4-alarm fire, because I think, you know, each alarm is going to be what, like 20-25 firefighters per alarm, so to speak, and then it would double with each or increase with each alarm. But that is a lot of firefighters, and we talked too. You may not have 100 firefighters tackling this fire at the same time. They're going to be rotating them in and out. And when you think about just how humid it is today, and the temperatures, it's a much, you know, Nellie Oliver, our first alert meteorologists, have been talking about how today, tomorrow, I mean, it's going to really start to ratchet up in terms of warmth, and all of the gear these firefighters are wearing.
The gear can be anywhere between an additional 50 to 70 pounds, depending on what they're carrying. You know, depending on the size of air tanks or air bottles that they're using, any additional tools that they're bringing with them, halogens, axes, you know, anything like that. All of that adds to the stress of what a firefighter has to undergo just to physically be able to be out there doing this work.
Much less moving, you know,
and then,
couches
on top of that, there they are. Look, that's what they're doing right there in the bottom. And they've been doing that diligently for the past hour or so now. We're approaching about an hour now since we've been on the air bringing you these live images and this information. So, and again, you know, this isn't going to wrap up anytime soon. You've got those those water streams from up above, those aerial ladders. They're going to be continuing to pour on until they know for a fact that this is out. And then they're going to start looking for embers, and they're going to start looking for some of those hot spots. But you know, again,
and then looking for any possible people who might be inside what's left of this
We continue to hope for the best. We continue to pray because we know just how severe this can be. And right now, all indication is that this is probably, you know, as bad as it can get for something like that. When you get the call of a possible gas explosion in an apartment complex, first responding crews get on scene. They see a fully involved apartment building, 2 floors, and then all of a sudden pieces of it begin to collapse, side by side, and now everything is on the ground. So you have to believe that maybe perhaps, you know, somebody is underneath there, and that's what they're going to have to focus on now. And
we know that everybody always, it's just human nature, we want answers right away. We want to know what happened, why did it happen, who is the cause of this, and you know, how many people might still be inside. But in cases like this, I mean, it can be days before we find out the hows and the whys. And hopefully much earlier before we find out if anybody
and I can tell
might
you,
be inside
we're working to get those answers. You know, the calls are out. We understand that there is a media staging area that is now being set up where we expect at any moment that officials with Dallas Fire Rescue are going to address the public and address the media, answer maybe some of these questions preliminarily. I know that in an investigation like this, which is what will follow all the operations that you see now, they have the same questions that we do. You know, what caused this, right? Could it have been prevented? And, you know, at some point, the question will come up, who's to blame? You know, but we're not at that juncture yet. We're not anywhere close to that or near that. And it's important to point that out, because in this day and age of fast-moving information, you know, we're wanting to be correct.
Absolutely.
And we're wanting to let people know that we have the same questions that you have, and we're working to get those answers.
And I do respect the fact that the guys on the ground, the boots on the ground, they're not sure either. And so what they're doing right now is their first job, as you mentioned, is to get the flames out. Get the flames out, get the hot spots, get rid of anything that's smoldering.
Right.
And right now, and then...
I'll tell you what, though, it looks like they've got the majority of the smoke cleared, and this is the first time that I'm seeing sort of a direct sight into what's left of that building.
Right.
And it's really not much of anything.
No.
Looks like there's one corner that has some framing.
The fact that there are any
something
2x4s
of a wall, yeah,
that are
something of a wall,
and it seems to be the only part of the structure, that second story, that is still standing.
You're right.
From what we can see from this vantage point.
You're right.
Yeah, there just doesn't seem to be much left at all.
I mean, the integrity of that obviously is compromised. You know, whenever this is all said and done, that's more than likely going to be torn down anyway.
Right.
But you know, as we're seeing now that you know that the flames are mostly out, at least from what we can tell. Surely there are some hot spots that we can't see from the air. But that initial plume, I mean, boy, that was a heavy, thick plume of smoke that we were seeing from all of our city cameras, from our helicopters. And from our crews on the scene, the first time they were responding to it, I mean, we knew something bad was happening when we saw that plume of smoke here.
Right, and look how close, again, so Adamson High School's football field, look how close that is to that apartment complex. And I'm sorry, I keep calling it a complex. It's a building. It was a two-story building, and from our reporter Marissa Armas there at the scene, she says she believes that 10 or so families lived there. It wasn't a huge building, but still a number of people possibly residing there.
You know, and interesting to point out, all in one city block, you've got a couple of apartment complexes, a couple of apartment buildings, one older, one newer. You've got single-family homes. On the other side of that, you've got Adamson High School. I mean, you've got a little bit of everything there. So this is very, very populated, and the kind of volume that you would see there would be high, as it you know, when you talk about people, when you talk about traffic, when you talk about cars. And in the middle of the day, you know, the call went out at 12. What's the note say? 12:47. So I mean, we call that lunchtime, right?
Right.
Is when that call went out.
Right.
And here we are, 2:45. We're quickly approaching the 3 o'clock hour. And you can see the progress that has been made here and what's left of this. And
we're told that when we talked about Adamson High School, Ken, that that is where the Family Assistance Center is. One would surmise that it's not just for the folks who might live in that building, but for folks who live nearby, you know, who aren't able to get home and are wanting to, you know, to find out where their loved ones or their friends might be. It looks like a firefighter right there at the top of the screen bringing out a husky, it looks like, a dog. Do you see that on a leash?
Yeah, I barely saw that.
Yeah.
You could hardly see that, but good eye on that. Yeah, I saw the little legs.
Coming from the neighboring apartment building.
Yeah, so, you know, and that's the other thing, you know, you also wonder, I mean, we've been talking a lot about this particular building, but, you know, who was in the building next door?
Next door, right.
You know, who was inside there? We don't know. Who was in the house next door? I mean, there was a significant amount of debris that's just laying all over that home's driveway and the roof of that house as well. So you know, you wonder, are there any injuries? Is there anybody inside there that needs any help? Right. But I will tell you, if there is a silver lining in all of this, is that this is an operation that right now it seems like fire crews have it well under control. Obviously, this is not what anybody wants to see. And when we talk about them having well under control, we mean it's not, you know, it's not this fiery inferno that we
not raging
first
anymore.
saw. I mean, this was raging. You're right.
It was.
I mean, the flames were just shooting, you know, up into the air, and it just seemed like, you know, it was just burning out of control. But clearly that's not the case now. And maybe, you know, maybe what it needed to do was just, you know. Burn through whatever was that was crumbling for crews to get a hold of it.
In your estimation, I mean, just based upon your experience, again, and for those of you who might just be joining us, this is a fire that is burning at an apartment building in the Bishop Arts District. This is at East 9th and North Patton. It is the Clyde Apartments. Again, about 100 firefighters there on scene because of what we believe was, and what we've been told by people nearby, was an explosion that rocked the neighborhood that could be felt 2 blocks away. This was, and possibly, you know, at a greater distance than that, but an explosion that sent people running from this building and was completely engulfed in flames. And based upon your experience, Ken, as a former volunteer firefighter, at what point, I mean, is this safe enough for them to go into? I mean, is it going to be something that it's not at all safe at all?
No, I mean, you know, this is they're operating in a high risk environment right now. So at no point is this going to be anywhere safe or ideal. At some point, they're going to have to make the determination where this is about as safe as we're going to get it, and we're going to go ahead and rely on our training, rely on our specialized teams and specialized crews and equipment to conduct the kind of search that they need to conduct. I'm assuming that's why you're asking.
Yes, exactly. Because if anybody is trapped inside.
So, but right now, they're not going to be going in just yet. Right now, what they're going to be doing is they're going to be getting as close as they can to the perimeter, to the outskirts of this building, and doing exactly what you saw them doing. By the way, look, there's still a little bit of smoldering going on right there. But you're going to continue to see them doing what they're doing, which is, by hand removing some of the debris, some of these pieces of plywood and 2x4s and that kind of thing. I think it'll look completely different once they're given the all clear. And again, I'm using that term loosely, but when they're given permission to actually go inside there. At that point, you might even see some heavy machinery that's brought in, some front loaders, for example, to try and get some of the debris out. More than likely, I know that DFR's got them. You're going to have search dogs that are brought in as well.
Right.
And you're going to have what is known as an urban search and rescue response to something like this. And those are going to be specialized team members that's all they do. I mean, that's what they train on. That is their specialty. They're the best at what they do in trying to get to victims in these kinds of environments.
Right. And again, we know nothing. All we have been told at this point by DFR, and this was at about an hour ago, that one person has been taken to the hospital at this time. But again, they stress that number could easily change depending on the number of people who are inside. And again, it's just our hope that anybody who was inside was able to get out.
I mean, I hope there was no one in there. But we don't know that, unfortunately. We understand that, so it's 2:51 right now. We understand that there is a media staging area that is being set up right now, and we just got word that in about 10 minutes or so, at about 3 o'clock, Dallas Fire Rescue officials are expected to give some sort of a briefing. So we're hoping to get some more information from them at that point, and perhaps some more clarification on so many of these questions that we have going on. A lot of the questions that we're asking, that we're all wondering and considering here, they're not going to be answered in 10 minutes. They're not going to be answered today or maybe even tomorrow. And I'm specifically talking about what may have caused all of this. That's going to take an investigation. That is going to take, a lot of people chiming in on this. But at least we'll get an idea of what exactly is going on there officially. From fire officials with DFR, and hopefully get a better idea also as to victims, because I know we've been sort of talking about that very much here, sort of speculating about it, but
I mean, of course, that's just the worst case. Nobody wants to hear that there was anybody inside, but it is definitely a fear, especially as we talked about. We noticed at least 2 cars in the parking lot, and a number of cars parked on the street, but again, hoping that none of those cars, at least the ones on the street, belong to the people inside that building.
And again, the building that we're seeing off to the side here, the apartment building, obviously sustained a significant amount of damage, but that's not stopping the firefighters there from using it as a sort of a leverage point, a high point to get some hoses from that building down onto the fire as well. So they're making the best of what they can out there. And I can tell you, just knowing the behavior of how some of these fires behave, some of the responses that we've seen so many times that we've reported on, this is pretty fast work on behalf of the Dallas Fire Rescue, on behalf of firefighters out there who were able to finally get this fire, this inferno that we initially saw to this state, which is pretty much extinguished at this point. So
we are getting Dallas Mayor Eric Johnson did tweet on X just about 20 minutes ago, saying, I'm closely monitoring the latest developments regarding the explosion in Oak Cliff. My prayers are with those injured, their families, and all of those who've suffered loss from this tragic event. Our Dallas Fire Rescue personnel responded swiftly, and their efforts to fight the fire are ongoing. A family reunification center is being established at the W.H. Adamson High School gym. We will continue to monitor the incident closely and support all of those affected.
So there you have it. That's the first sort of official word that we've had in this case. It comes by way of Dallas's Mayor Johnson. Excuse me, taking a breath there. And so there's the reunification center is already being set up. Again, typical in a response like this. And then in a few minutes, we're expected to hear directly from fire rescue officials as to what details they could share with us. That's expected to happen at 3 o'clock. So by my watch, that's 6 minutes.
These things, though, sometimes, and I like to underscore because we do this a lot with a lot of different agencies, and I'm not saying that DFR is one of them, but sometimes they have a goal of starting this news conference at the appointed time, and it doesn't always work out the way that we hope it will. So hopefully it'll be at 3. It might be a little bit later, as sometimes happens. But again, we're so curious as to. I'm taking a look. When the chopper was swinging in front of the apartment complex across the street, a number of people there looked to be wearing white hard hats. You can see it to the far right of the screen, and also those folks that we saw with the trench digging apparatus.
Yeah. They
along the sidewalk in front.
Kind of had like a front loader, and there were 3 gentlemen. It looked like they were working to really quickly dig and get to something. And I mean, the something is a gas line. That's what's down there.
You would think.
And so where they were trying to get to it, to shut it off, to pinch it, or what have you. But look, we know that the initial report was of some kind of an explosion. And that was followed up by initial reports that this may have been the result of some sort of natural gas explosion. We're going to ask that.
Right.
And hopefully that's the first thing that we can get confirmed from fire officials here in a couple minutes when they're expected to give this 3 o'clock news conference. But like you said, I mean, that could be pushed back a little bit. But the hope is that we can get some sort of confirmation on those sort of details so we can start to sort of gather and piece together this picture of what we're seeing. Well, I also want to know, who victims.
Absolutely.
Who
lives there?
Who lives there? Who may have been inside? What's the effort now? What happens now to try and get to these folks that might be underneath all of this rubble? That's what I'd like to know next. I mean, that's more than likely something that they're trying to confirm themselves.
And I know that when Mayor Johnson was talking about victims in this sense, if we're talking about the number of families who live in this apartment building, they've lost everything. There's going to be nothing salvageable from this building. And some folks may have renter's insurance, but many people don't. And, and so, forward thinking, a lot of these folks, and it's an unfortunate, sad, terrible thing, but they're going to be starting over.
As so much, as is the case so often. But to your point, Karen, and this is something that's probably going to affect not just the people who live there, but nearby as well. You just hope for the best, because the images that we're seeing, the video, certainly, it just looks bad.
Yeah.
It's devastating. I don't want to be over dramatic with any of this, but we're hoping and praying and wishing for the best, because what we're seeing is the worst. This is not what you want to see.
And it is, it is something that, again, a lot of what we're doing right now is speculating, and you never like to do that. But there's some things that we're seeing and then have seen over the course of the last hour and 15 minutes that lead us to believe that there is a possibility, at least, that there may be one or more people who were not able to get out of that building. So, and that's what we saw, those firefighters, because that was I was curious about the fact that they were cloistered, they were grouped together in one quadrant of that building, not kind of spread out in each corner, but right on one corner was where they were concentrating their efforts.
And the way that they were so diligently and so quickly just using their hands and whatever they could to try and remove this debris and try and get underneath it. I
saw a box spring thrown over the fence.
You typically don't see that unless someone's telling them, hey, we need to figure out if there's anyone underneath there or not. And again, we're going to continue to say this. The hope is that there was not anyone underneath there. But when you see that kind of imagery, when you see that kind of effort going into it, you start wondering the same thing that I think anybody with a set of eyes, who sees that is going to be wondering. We're getting real close to a news conference that is about to happen here sometime around 3 o'clock or right at 3 o'clock. As soon as that starts, we're going to take you live to it. But once again, you're looking at some live images, folks, of this, what is left now of an apartment building in Oak Cliff following what appears to be some sort of an explosion.
And, you know, we've been watching these guys tackle the flames and what's left of the flames, what's smoldering now, from so many different angles. And again, if you can look very closely, you see those 2 ladder trucks, and there's even a firefighter on the 3rd floor of that neighboring apartment building who also has a hose and has been there for the last hour and 15 minutes that we've been on the air.
Yeah, we've been watching
exactly.
the whole time.
And yeah, and then again from the ground, tackling it from all sorts of angles, and they have done an amazing job of getting these flames out. So we do want to welcome you back. Karen Borda, Ken Molestina here with CBS Texas, and we have been covering what we believe to be an apartment building explosion in Dallas, in the Oak Cliff area, in the eastern part of the Bishop Arts District.
More specifically, folks, if you're just joining us, thank you for joining us, by the way, but this is happening off of East 9th and North Patton. The major cross streets, if you're familiar with the area, are going to be somewhere around Davis and Beckley. This is right behind Adamson High School. And again, the Clyde Apartments is what we've been able to confirm where this is happening, just east of the very popular Bishop Arts area. And this is what it looked like when we were able to get our first sort of eyes on the situation there.
So this is a 2-story apartment building. This is the Clyde Apartments, as Ken was mentioning. This is at East 9th and North Patton there, fully engulfed in flames. And we have spoken with the witnesses who were near when this happened, who said that they felt an explosion and they felt it blocks away from this.
Blocks away.
And we've seen, you know, again, all signs, so many things point to the fact that this absolutely was an explosion.
Yeah, we have seen fire.
The 80th Charles Schwab Challenge is officially underway this morning at Colonial Country Club, one of the most historic stops on the PGA Tour. Some of the biggest names in golf are in Fort Worth this week, all taking on the course known as Hogan's Alley. Our Lauren Crawford's in Fort Worth with more on the history and the star power surrounding this year's tournament.
Yeah, there's a really special energy out here as the Charles Schwab Challenge celebrates its 80th year. From the world-class field of players to the Horrible Horseshoe, this tournament is one of the most respected and historic stops on the PGA Tour. Round 1 is now underway here at Colonial Country Club, where thousands of fans are expected throughout the weekend. The course, known as Hogan's Alley, continues to challenge some of the best players with its tight fairways, small greens, and demanding shot making. Tournament director Michael Toth says it is a course that forces players to think through every shot.
You just look around and you can see the tradition, you can feel the tradition, Ben Hogan statue. The golf course is very difficult. And it causes the players to really think about what they need to do out here. They just can't sort of bomb it and rip it and go. You got to really think your way around it. And I think that's why Colonial has stood the test of time for 80 years.
And this year's tournament features a star-studded field along with a big emphasis on the fan experience, from the family zone in the food truck fairway to interactive
by-fours. We've seen plywood, pieces of window, pieces of wall, pieces of, I mean, just absolutely
couches
everywhere down there. So you got to think, you know, there are probably some hot spots still underneath there, and you got to think that possibly that fire crews and rescue crews on the ground are also trying to get underneath all of that to see if there are any additional victims. But what we can confirm to you right now, as of last check, just a couple minutes ago, that 4 people have been taken to hospitals. Their conditions are not known right now. We also know that this went to a 4-alarm fire, meaning somewhere upwards of 150 firefighters were there on the scene trying to get this under control.
Right, exactly. And again, maybe not all 150 at one time tackling this fire, because they have to rotate them in and out, give them time to rest, because as you mentioned, they're carrying 50 pounds of gear on their backs, you know, heavy fire equipment. And in weather like this, you know, hot temperatures, humid temperatures.
A lot of elements.
Yeah, exactly. They get tired quickly.
We've got our Marissa Armas. She is on the ground, standing by. We understand that she is a couple of blocks away from this scene here. Marissa, we see you. Hopefully you can hear us okay. Bring us up to speed, please. Set the scene for us. What's the latest out there on the ground?
Absolutely, Ken. Well, I've been here for about 2 hours. I will say that, since I've been here, the situation has been very active. There are several crews here on the ground. When I initially got here, I was able to actually get close to that apartment complex. I mean, we're about a block and a half away from where that explosion happened. And I will say that I was able to get through an alleyway, and I was just across from that building. I was still seeing active flames when I arrived here. I did see over 40 firefighters in that area, many of them trying to fight off that blaze. And I will say that neighbors I spoke to in this area say that they felt a huge explosion. They say that they felt this entire street rumble. People telling me that they felt that from 2 blocks away. Now, a couple folks that I spoke to say that they saw people running from that building. One man telling me that he heard people screaming. He saw another man go into that building and grab a little girl. I actually spoke to a man who lives across the street from that apartment complex. We're being told that those apartments are El Ricardo apartments off of East 9th Street. But again, this guy I spoke to who lives right across the street said that he saw a little girl trying to get out of the rubble. He said that she was struggling, and that's when folks ran over to try to get her out. Now, other folks who live in this area tell me that they do believe that that's an apartment complex that has at least 10 different units. That hasn't been confirmed yet, and right now we don't know if anyone has been injured. Now, I will just let you know that when I first got here on the ground, driving over here, I was in downtown Dallas. I did see a huge black plume of smoke, and then once I got here, a lot of that smoke was white. I will say that when I initially arrived here, there were ambulances on the ground. I saw them rushing out of the area, so likely that folks were transported to a local hospital here. Now, again, this has been a pretty scary situation for a lot of the folks who live in this area. Many people tell me that they heard screaming, they heard running, and they heard and felt the entire street shake. Right now, a lot of the folks who live on that block aren't able to go back to their home. Many of them are actually hanging out here just right in front of us. You can see some of these folks trying to maybe get to their home there, but still a very active scene. Again, I have spoken to a couple of folks in the area who live nearby, and we've been seeing a little bit of everything right now. So an active scene, and we'll go ahead and toss things back to you right now.
All right, Marissa, thank you very much.
We can see somebody in that live shot. I'm not sure somebody seems to be hurt.
If that's related to this fire.
Not sure if that's related or not, but I just wanted to point it out that we see it as well. So back out live now, just a few blocks away from where Marissa was giving her live report, back to the actual scene of the fire over at the Clyde Apartments, right there off of 9th and North Patton. In east part of Oak Cliff. This is what's left now. You see it looks to be maybe some hot spots down below, a couple of hose lines from firefighters as they work to continue to pour water on any little hot spot that might still be there. And as the helicopter sort of swings around to the backside there, you can see that's the only, at least from where I can see, that's the only piece of the building that's still standing. It's that small corner right there.
I think there's one right there kind of in the center of the screen. Like as far as the second story is concerned, there's just not much left of this building, and certainly nothing salvageable.
It just breaks your heart when you see this, Karen.
It does. And again, the thing that's concerning is that you see those cars in the parking lot, and we've talked about that. You have to wonder where are the people that belong to those cars, and you just have to hope that that there's nobody left in that building. We do know, we've been told that 4 people have been taken to the hospital as a result of this explosion. Don't know if they were in the building, if they were outside the apartment building when it exploded. Don't know anything in terms of their status, whether they're in good condition or worse. So this is something that we're waiting to hear from Dallas Fire Rescue, and we've been told that they had to change location. So they had intended to have this news conference at 3, but it might be a little bit later.
Yeah, as soon as that happens, we're gonna take you live to it. So we're not breaking away from any of this. So just stay locked in here with us as we continue to bring you the very latest and get you all the information that we are hearing and that we are more importantly confirming here at CBS News Texas. So as soon as that news conference happens, we will take you there. You know, initially we had gotten reports of just 1 person injured. So the very latest that we can offer you is that now that number is up to 4 as of probably 10 minutes ago.
And we do have, we've been out there for a while, and we've been able to interview a lot of people, and we do have a witness interview right now. Let's go ahead and take a look at that.
Well, I had just seen like a good chunk of the building missing, and there was this little girl who was like barely getting out of the debris. And after that, like the fire just started spreading.
That
right.
that sort of echoes the first soundbite or interview that we heard from a witness. Marissa Armas, a reporter on the scene there, had spoken to somebody. He said as much in Spanish about seeing or witnessing a small little girl being rescued and taken away. We're thinking about whoever she is. We're thinking about that little girl. And hoping and praying for the best for her and for 3 others who apparently have been taken, at least 3 others.
You know, and I did mention how grateful we were that that yesterday was the last day of school because Adamson High School is right there. But again, that is the downside. That is the flip side to having kids out of school, is that there's the likelihood that there are kids there at home.
Right. You know, and you know, the other thing that we're waiting to see here, you know, the helicopter is, again, was asked to sit back a little bit, so we can't see the front side of this the way that we were seeing it a little bit ago. But I can tell you from what we were seeing at the time was just sort of this large group of firefighters that were sort of together, and they were working diligently and in a coordinated fashion to try and get a lot of debris off the ground or removed. And the reason I'm bringing that up is because that leads me to the next point of what we're so worried about, is that there might still be people underneath there. We don't have any confirmation on that, but certainly the images and the video that we've been seeing, aerial footage, suggests that firefighters were working possibly in that sort of manner to maybe get somebody out or get to someone or some people.
And again, I have to wonder if perhaps because they did ask our chopper to back off a little bit, and I have to wonder if that was the reason why. So we're looking at a side of the building where that work is not going on, and if maybe that's the reason for it.
Let's go ahead and let's see if do we have that available?
Yeah, go ahead and pop that up, Felicia. The mayor did tweet probably about 30, well, more than 20 minutes ago, about 30 minutes ago, I believe. And here we go. He says, I'm closely monitoring the latest developments regarding the explosion in Oak Cliff. My prayers over those injured, their families, all of those who've suffered loss from this tragic event. Our Dallas Fire Rescue personnel responded swiftly, and their efforts to fight the fire are ongoing. A family reunification center is being established at the W.H. Adamson High School gym. We will continue to monitor the incident closely and support all of those affected.
And again, that is a tweet that was put out by Dallas Mayor Eric Johnson just a little bit ago. So the mayor's office obviously very aware of what is happening, and they're also working in coordination with crews there on the ground to try and get families reunited, try and get some information out to people, get some questions answered. And hopefully do whatever it is that they can to try and get people, you know, through these initial stages of this awful tragedy that has taken place here in the east part of Oak Cliff. You
know, and they have cordoned off, you know, this area. They've cordoned off this neighborhood. So as this goes on, you know, folks who live in that area won't be able to get home. You know, and it looks like some of those apartments, that neighboring apartment building anyway, probably not habitable. Some of these.
Probably not. Probably not that one or any of the houses nearby. As expected, we're starting to hear now from multiple witnesses on the scene. I understand that we have another brief interview that we want to share with you of someone who was in the area when this blast took place. Let's go ahead and have a listen to that.
So I felt like a big boom. There was not one, but there was 2 of them. And then I took off running to the end of my street, because I live right there by the school, by James Bowie. That's how far we felt it. And then I got my car, came down here. There was multiple injuries.
Multiple injuries. That's what she's saying. We do know that there have been multiple injuries. We know that at least 4 people were taken to the hospital. How many more, though, we don't know.
Right, and the degree of injury, we don't know that either. Some people, you know, you know, it might just be very slight injury, and other people might be more badly injured, and that is what we are waiting to find out. Again, we are waiting for a news conference from Dallas Fire Rescue, really at any time, where we hope to learn more. And looking at this shell of what was this apartment building, Ken, I marvel at the destruction.
Yeah. Meanwhile, there are some new images also coming in. I think these are some still images of the ground response. This, by the way, this is what we were talking about, right?
Yeah. This is all of that cloister of firefighters there moving debris, bit by bit.
And trying to put some of the flames out. So these are images that are coming into the newsroom now directly from Dallas Fire Rescue. So this would have been just within the moments of when this happened. And you get the sense of just how overwhelming of an event this was for those firefighters, and they responded in mass.
Right.
You know, they quickly going from 2 to 3 to ultimately 4 alarm fire. Really gives you an idea of all the resources that were being deployed to try and get this under control and try and save as many people as possible out there.
Yeah, and just looking at these images, yeah, and look at the house. This is a single-family residence there on the left side, and you can see just the amount of debris that's just on the roof.
Right.
And the car, there's a red car on the other side of that picket fence, and just covered in debris. And it speaks to the size, perhaps, of the blast.
Right, and that's something that you know, is going to be investigated at length. You know, what caused this blast? You know, how many blasts were there? But again, you know, when you talk about evidence and signatures of events like that, of you know, an explosion of that kind of nature, I mean, it's all visible. That it's all there. I want to go ahead and check in once again now, if we could take you back out to Marissa Armas. Marissa, I think, is she still standing by? Marissa is about 1.5 blocks away from the blast site, the place where this building once stood. Marissa, we're waiting on DFR to make some confirmations, to give us some information, some details. But what else are our neighbors out there telling you about what happened?
Yeah, Ken, and I've been here for about 1.5 hours. We're here off of 10th and Denver, which is about 1.5 blocks away from where that explosion happened. We're being told that it happened at the El Ricardo Apartments off of 409 East 9th Street. Now, I want to show you a little bit about what the situation looks like here. Not only are there still dozens of crews out here, but we have noticed gas crews out here as well. Now, again, people I've spoken to, witnesses, say that they heard it was also a gas explosion. Folks telling me that they felt a rumble from blocks away. 1 block, 2 blocks away. Many of these people, they say that they were told to leave the area. They started to see folks running from that apartment complex. You know, one witness I spoke to says that he saw a little girl under rubble. And earlier today, I was actually able to sneak in through an alleyway. I was able to get right in front of that apartment complex, and I was still seeing active flames. So when I initially arrived here again about 1.5 hours ago, the fire was still active. Crews were out here trying to put those flames out. I did notice about 40 firefighters, and I will say that this had to be a massive explosion. Not only do we have those witnesses saying that they felt it from a few blocks away from a nearby school, but you could also see bricks scattered all over the street there. I will say that when I initially got here, I also saw ambulances in the area, many of them leaving quickly, so likely transporting folks to the hospital. We were able to confirm that at least 4 people were transported to a local hospital, and we're just hoping that everyone's okay today. I spoke to another man who says that he saw a gentleman run inside the apartment to rescue a little girl. We're being told that there were at least 10 units inside that apartment complex, but again, that hasn't been confirmed yet. But a pretty scary day here. You know, a lot of the folks who live on that block over on 9th were told to evacuate. They were told to leave the area. And even since I've been here, you know, again, I was able to get close, but throughout the hour, I have been told I need to move. But we are going to go ahead and toss things back to you to get the latest updates.
Hey, Marissa, thank you very much. We understand that the news conference has started. Dallas Police Chief Daniel Como is apparently up at the microphone, so let's go ahead and have a listen.
Or that's the
by the
city
tragic
manager.
Events here in Oak Cliff this afternoon. Dallas Fire Rescue responded quickly to the scene to contain the fire. Our Dallas Police Department is here as well to provide support here on the ground. I want to give a special thank you to our Chief of Public Safety, Dominique Artis, to the Chief of Police, Daniel Como, who are both here with us, as well as to all the first responders who are here on the site to provide support to this community. A family reunification center has been set up at W.H. Adamson High School. Our prayers are with the many families who are affected by this event. Our prayers are also with the entire Dallas community during this time. We will continue to provide you with updates as more information becomes available. Now at this time, I'd like to turn it over to our Mayor Eric Johnson, for some remarks.
I want to encourage our entire city, this entire state, the entire nation to come together and pray for all the people, all the families who are affected by this tragedy we are experiencing here today in our city. We ask everyone to please pray for our Dallas Fire Rescue personnel who are still fighting this fire. They do an amazing job under very, very difficult circumstances like this, and we just pray that they will be safe while they try to save and help every single person that they can affected by this. I'm joined here today by the council member for this district, Chad West, and Councilmember Maxie Johnson. I just want to say that we are going to do every single thing we have to do and that we need to do to make sure that every affected family by this tragedy gets what they need. So you have my commitment that we will do whatever we have to do to make sure that these folks are okay. But the most important thing right now is that we come together as a community and that we pray for everyone's well-being. At this point, I want to turn it over to our Dallas Fire Rescue Chief, Chief Russ, to address any other issues. But I just want to say that today's tragedy, the first day of summer after DISD just let out yesterday, we need to pray for these folks who are affected by this and for our entire city. So with that, Chief Russ.
Yes, I'm Assistant Chief James Russ with Dallas Fire Rescue. At 12:47, our dispatch center received a gas leak call at the 400 block of East 9th Street. Crews quickly arrived at 12:49, a 2-minute response, and quickly upgraded to a second alarm fire. Shortly after, it continued to escalate and upgrade. At this time, we are at a 5-alarm fire. The fire is contained, but our members are still working on the scene to do primary searches. We put a drone in the air to canvass the area to see if we have any, if we see any victims or anything around. Once we get more information, we'll let you know. But at this time, there's unknown how many possible fatalities we may have. And also we have 4 people transported to the hospital in unknown conditions at this time. Thank you.
Can you confirm if there are any deaths or not?
Can you talk about the cause of the gas leak?
Did anyone die from this situation?
So just to recap here, we've been listening in.
Hold on a second. We'll be providing you with another update as soon as additional information comes available. At this time, we are not taking any questions. Thank you all so very much.
Okay. Was the city involved with some construction?
So yeah, the reporters, you can hear they're asking questions. The city manager, Kim Tolbert, we heard from Mayor Eric Johnson and the assistant chief, James Russ. And basically what we learned, the questions that we wanted to know, have there been any fatalities? They say that they don't know. They're an unknown possible fatalities is what we were told, but 4 people have been taken to the hospital.
Let's get back out to Marissa Armas. Marissa is only, it's really a block or so away from where this is all happening. She was asked to push back a little bit. Marissa, we just heard from, we'll give you a second or so to get ready.
Yeah, it's okay.
We can see
This is a breaking news situation, and we all understand, yeah.
Marissa, we just heard from officials.
Absolutely.
So they're saying that they're using a drone for any possible fatalities, any additional injuries out there. They are confirming that 4 people were taken to the hospital, though. This obviously fits with what neighbors have been telling you. I mean, you've had neighbors tell you and talk to you about witnessing rescues.
Exactly, and exactly what neighbors heard is exactly what officials just shared, right? They said this started as a gas leak at around 12:47. They said it then was upgraded to a second alarm fire, and then it turned into a 5-alarm fire. But as you just heard officials say, a lot of that is contained right now. Now, as you heard, they do have the drone out here. They do still have crews out here just making sure that that's contained and monitored, and you can still see crews out here. I mean, it's still a very active scene. I mean, for a lot of the folks in this area, this is pretty pretty scary, right? They said they've never seen anything like this. The magnitude, what they felt on the ground here is pretty intense. And you could see Ed Louder here, our photographer, panning over. These are folks who are waiting to get back into their apartments that live on the block there over on 9th. And I mean, a pretty scary day for these folks. A lot of people telling me that they didn't even know about it. You know, some were at work, they heard about it online, but many of them hoping and praying that their neighbors were okay. Now, when I was initially driving down here, again, I was able to get here when those flames were still active. Thankfully, you know, within 30-40 minutes, fire crews were able to put those out, but a lot of rubble was on the ground. So that entire front of the complex, I'm sure you've seen some of that video we've shown you, but it was gone. Bricks were scattered throughout the street there. So the magnitude of that was pretty big. Now we do, I did have neighbors tell me that, you know, they saw folks, you know, in the area screaming, yelling, running. One man went in to save a little girl. And we're just hoping and praying that everyone's okay. As you heard officials say, 4 people transported to a hospital here. And we'll be sure to bring you any updates as we get those.
Which we do appreciate very much, Marissa. Thank you so much. So again, basically what we heard, you know, the mayor, of course, asking for prayers, and he pledged, Chad West, the city councilman for that area, for that district, that the city will do everything that it can to help make things right. And, you know, they have the full support of the city, and it's probably going to take a lot when you consider the number of people impacted by this, because, you know, if what we believe to be true, that Marissa said, told us earlier that she believes 10 or so families live in that apartment building, in addition to those injured and possible fatalities. That building is a total loss, and everything inside is a total loss, and a lot of people are going to have to start over, you know, as a result of this.
The tone in which the mayor spoke, Mayor Johnson, and the fire chief as well, leads me to believe that, you know, they don't have a firm grasp right now on,
they don't have
how
the
many
answers.
Possible victims are still underneath.
Sure, yeah.
They're asking for prayers. They're asking for people to keep all of these families in mind.
In their prayers,
in their prayers as well. And we know that they're using drones now to try and get a closer look to see if anybody's down there. We saw those crews, you know, on the ground, those firefighters, hand by hand, you know, removing things. So obviously, you know, all of this is really starting to fit, and we're starting to get a clearer picture. Now, they don't have a number, they don't have any names right now, but they do have enough information that they're moving forward in a very sort of urgent manner and in a very serious one, and asking all of us right now for thoughts and really for prayers for everybody involved in this.
It looks like, obviously, there are going to be hot spots from this. This was an intense, raging fire just an hour and a half ago, and it looks like they've got it down to certainly just the ashes and a few hot spots. You can still see smoke in some areas, but and they will continue to do this. They will continue to douse what's left of this building, just to make sure that they're, as Ken, you were talking about, sometimes things get trapped beneath the rubble and can reignite, and we don't want that to happen. So they are drowning what's left of anything that might be burning.
We want to also reemphasize and remind you that there has been a family reunification center that has also been set up, and that is set up at over at Adamson High School, so only about 2 blocks away from where this is happening. This is the area where officials are asking family members, anybody with questions, anybody who's concerned about someone who might be missing, not answering a phone call or a text message, go to this location. There are resources that are going to welcome you there and that are going to take care of you and try and sort of help navigate through all of this for anybody concerned loved ones or concerned family members related to this tragedy.
And all of those folks, you know, who live around, like we saw some of those people that, you know, from Ed Louder, our photographer out there, you know, the folks who don't necessarily live in this building, but they live nearby. Everyone is being kept back until they get this scene cleared.
You know, when we first came on the air to bring you these images, to bring you this breaking news, you know, we saw what looked to be, at least at the time, 4 standing walls. They're all gone now, except for that corner that you're seeing there off to the left side of your screen. All of those walls are down. We never, at least I was never able to make out a clear roof at any point, so that had already collapsed by the time that the helicopter got above head. But now, you know, everything is gone. And I I'm only bringing that up because, Karen, you also made the point that, you know, nothing was salvageable. I don't think, at the point that we started to see this, I don't think we even thought that anything was salvageable. I mean, this was far gone, and immediately we started thinking about, oh my goodness, how about people? You know, people that were inside, people that possibly, you know, were nearby, and we just don't know. All we know right now is that Dallas Fire Rescue is confirming 4 people were taken to the hospital. We don't know their conditions, and right now there are active operations taking place, including drones, to try and survey the area for initial search and rescue, possible search and rescue victims.
Yeah, this is really unbelievable because, you know, you were talking about the roof, because when we went on the air with this at about, what, 1:45, I think it was about the time that we went on the air.
The call went
in at 12:47. They said it was a 2-minute response. And what we saw by the time our helicopter got to the scene, no roof on the building, but flames shooting from every direction. I mean, the entire roof was gone, and coming from what was left of the windows, and again, you know, we're talking about, this is a 5-alarm fire. 100 firefighters out at the scene tackling this fire from all angles, and they are still there. They're still fighting this aerially. They're fighting it from the 3rd floor of that apartment building next door. Their hoses trained in that direction, just trying to drench everything.
And they're going to be there for a while.
Yeah.
I mean, this is something that we just heard the chief say, that they're still working to contain whatever's left of that fire and start conducting rescue operations as well.
So you are watching CBS Texas, and we do want to thank you very much for joining us. This is continuing coverage, really, of what has been a breaking news situation in the Dallas area. This is in East Oak Cliff.
Right.
Yeah, we're near the Bishop Arts area. And this is at East 9th and North Patton. This is just a little bit north of the zoo.
North of the zoo. If you know Davis and Beckley, this is just a couple of blocks over from east of the Bishop Arts area.
And right by Adamson High School.
So what we're talking about here is an apparent explosion that led to an apartment fire that has completely collapsed that entire building right now. There's a map for you, by the way, folks, if you're just joining us. If you know the area, you know where this is. Again, East Oak Cliff, just a couple streets over from the very popular Bishop Arts Entertainment District. So here's what we know right now. We know that an initial 911 call went out at 12:47 earlier today for some sort of an explosion, a gas leak. Crews get on scene, and this is what they see. They see a 2-floor garden-style apartment complex covered in smoke and in flames, fully engulfed with pieces of it starting to fall off. We saw, once our helicopter got ahead, that the roof was gone. It had collapsed as well. Shortly after, sides of the building start coming down. The front side, the left side, the back side. At this point, the only thing that was left is a rear corner of that building. What we don't know is how many people may have been hurt or possible fatalities resulting by this fire. We know that Dallas Fire Rescue only confirming that 4 people were taken to the hospital, but we did see crews, Karen, working diligently, trying to remove debris even by hand in the earlier portion of this response, presumably to try and get to any possible victims that were trapped underneath all of that rubble.
And they did seem to be concentrating their efforts on one particular corner of the building, which would, you know, lead us to possibly infer that that is where someone might have been trapped.
Right, and you know, at that point, they're working off of initial information that they're getting from the ground, from any neighbors, from any property management, any other victims that may have been able to come outside, and that's usually what they work on. And that's why we saw them sort of congregated in that area. But they were doing everything that they could, from what we could tell, to use their hands to try and get as much debris off as possible. We did hear from Assistant Fire Chief James Russ, who talked about the use of drones now. So they brought in drones and technology now to try and figure out if there are, in fact, any other victims underneath there, underneath that rubble. He did say that it is unknown right now about any possible fatalities. Here's a live look right now of what's left, though, of that firefight and of that response to the building that was engulfed. I mean, it was just roaring about an hour and a half ago. So it does seem like it's under control.
Right, and so we did hear from City Manager Kim Tolbert and Mayor Eric Johnson, and as Ken mentioned, Assistant Chief James Russ. Here is what the mayor had to say.
I want to encourage our entire city, this entire state, the entire nation to come together and pray for all the people, all the families who are affected by this tragedy we are experiencing here today in our city. We ask everyone to please pray for our Dallas Fire Rescue personnel who are still fighting this fire. They do an amazing job under very, very difficult circumstances like this, and we just pray that they will be safe while they try to save and help every single person that they can affected by this.
Dallas Mayor Eric Johnson, again, another live picture right now of what we can see of what is left. The mayor talking about the firefighters out there, personnel still working diligently to try and save anybody that they can, to try and put out any hot spots out there. But again, this is what is left of it now. The smoke, for the most part, has cleared.
And it looks like one of the guys from on the ladder truck, he's coming down the ladder right now, presumably to switch out.
Yeah, who knows?
Yeah.
But there's still at least one water stream being poured onto this fire. Let's get over to Marissa Armas. We've been chatting with our reporter Marissa Armas live on the scene there on the ground throughout the afternoon. Marissa, we heard the mayor asking for thoughts and prayers. I mean, it sounds like, you know, they have the same concerns that so many of us have, and that is how many more possible victims might there be? We don't know.
Absolutely, and a pretty serious situation here. You know, a lot of the residents who live in this area are very shaken up by it. They tell me they've never felt or seen anything of this magnitude. Many of them, as I mentioned, say that they felt the entire road, their homes shaking in this area when they felt that explosion. One woman telling me that she heard two different explosions, so one that initially went off and then seconds later a second one. Now, obviously, it's still a very active scene out here. If you take a look back here, again, we are here off of 10th and Denver. We have several police crews as well as firefighters. And then even those gas crews are here on the ground. When I initially arrived here, you know, officials did say that gas explosion happened around 12:47. I got here probably around 1:40, so a little less than an hour after that. But I was able to see a lot of those flames, a lot of that apartment building still going. A lot of that blaze still going. There were at least 400 firefighters out there putting that out. And again, the scale of this had to be huge because there were bricks, parts of that apartment building scattered throughout the road there. Several crews trying to just put out those active flames. The ladder was up, and folks in the area just really shaken by what had happened. You know, one man telling me that he saw a man go in and save a little girl. They heard people screaming. And here's a little more on what some of those folks had to say. We got that sound?
Soy reportera con Canal 11. ¿Solo qué oíste o explícame un poco?
Fuerte, muy fuerte, un golpe. Y salimos allá a ver qué era porque pensamos que había chocado algo y no, era mucho humo para acá.
Ajá.
Vinimos a ver y ya habían explotado.
¿Y viste a muchas personas corriendo?
Corriendo, saliendo.
Ajá.
Gritando.
¿Y qué más vistes?
Pues nada más eso.
¿Y gente gritando?
Sí, salió una gente de ahí gritando.
Y dicen que tal vez era con gasolina.
Un señor sacó una niña de ahí arriba, ahí la tienen de aquel lado.
¿La viste?
La niña ahí está de aquel lado, la tienen ahí.
¿Pero de verdad? ¿Dónde están?
Están de aquel lado, el muchacho que la sacó, de arriba de los apartamentos.
¿Y él le salvó a la niña?
Sí, pues estaba dentro y la sacó. Pues no sabe si habrá más gente allá.
Well, I had just seen like a good chunk of the building missing, and there was this little girl who was like barely getting out of the debris. And after that, like the fire just started spreading.
And Marissa, we're going to come back.
So as you just heard there, this is a little bit of what witnesses. Oh, yeah, that's just a little bit of what witnesses had to say. That first interview there in Spanish, he was saying that he heard people screaming. He saw a little girl get saved by a man there, and he said it was really scary. He said he felt the whole block shake. At that point, they were asking us to leave the area because of the fumes in this area. So they were having us leave that perimeter there. Now, over the last 10, 15 minutes, we have noticed a lot of residents who live on that block coming to this area to try to find their pets, their loved ones, and a lot of those folks being told to go go to the Dallas Animal Services. We've already seen 2-3 people come by, say, I'm just looking for my animal, and they're telling all those folks to go to the Dallas Animal Shelter. So still a very active scene here, and a pretty scary day for these folks. Again, people telling me that they've never felt anything like that. The entire block was shaking.
Yeah,
we'll send things back to you.
Yeah, Marissa, you know, as you know, we've been talking about this. We've been on the air for quite a while now, and I did see at one point a firefighter taking a dog from a neighboring apartment building, that 4-story building next to this building that exploded, and taking it looked like a husky to me, but taking it by leash, and I know that's something that they've been spending their time doing is collecting animals and you know, making sure that people are evacuated. Sure. But that is something to consider.
We're taking some live images right now of firefighters now sort of making entry into where the building would have been standing. As of the last news conference that was given, well, the only one really a couple of minutes ago, Assistant Chief James Russ with Dallas Fire Rescue saying that there are preliminary sort of search efforts taking place right now because they don't know if there are any more victims.
Right, and they're putting out hotspots.
So this, and he talked about them putting out hotspots as well. So that's what we're seeing right now. Probably a combination of two things going on at the same time. Perhaps some hotspots that they're trying to get to.
And Marissa, when she was talking, we saw that drone.
Efforts as well. Right, and the drone that's still up ahead.
The canvassing, he said.
Which is what they're using.
He said they're using it to kind of canvass the scene because it's much safer for the drone to go into places than it would be to send firefighters.
Right.
Because these walls, some of them, you can see them listing badly. They're teetering, and it wouldn't take much for them to fall.
You know, at this point, you know, I don't see many walls still standing. There's a piece of one, but yeah, you made the point earlier when we were seeing it, when there was actually flames rolling off of the top of it. I mean, you know, we knew that wasn't going to stay up there too long before it came down. Unfortunately, though, I mean, this is what we're talking about. These images are just absolutely heartbreaking when you consider that this was an apartment building, at least 10 units there. So we're talking at least 10 families affected by this. We're hoping that nobody was home, but we don't know that for sure. We're praying for these families. We're praying for everybody involved. The only thing right now that we have been able to confirm through officials with Dallas Fire Rescue is that 4 people were taken to the hospital. We do not know their conditions. They did not say that at the news conference a couple minutes ago, but we do know that they're looking. They're looking underneath all that rubble to see if maybe there are other possible victims. And I hate to say it, but at this point we're talking about fatalities.
Right. Oh, yeah. And so we've got some new chopper video, I think, that we need to show you. Here we go. This is this is something that we saw when our helicopter first got to the scene, and you can see not just the building on fire, but also there appears to be a utility truck there at the kind of the left side of the screen there, and both of us were kind of mystified as to what exactly it is, but some sort of a work truck.
I couldn't tell. Yeah, right.
Yeah, and it was completely burned as well, and this is how things evolved over the course of the last 2 hours, almost 3 hours now, because again, the call came in at 12:47 this afternoon. Took 2 minutes for firefighters to arrive, and as soon as they did arrive, they realized they were going to need more help.
Right. So, you know, this is a good point to sort of establish a bit of a timeline here for folks who've been following with us or folks who are just joining us as to how we got to this point. These are pre-recorded images from the chopper from earlier today, as we were coming on the air and bringing you these live images and the live information on this breaking news. But this all started at about 12:47, well, like Karen mentioned, so sometime around noon or so. Shortly after, the call comes in, 12:47, for some kind of a gas explosion. Crews get on the scene and they see just this roaring, raging fire completely engulfing this apartment building. At that point, this goes into a second alarm, then into a third alarm, ultimately to 4 alarms. And as of last check, now we know that it went up to 5 alarms.
Right.
So that's sort of the progression of just how many firefighters had to be called out and just the severity of it throughout the day. We do know that at some point, you know, the roof gave in, it collapsed, and then the walls started falling, because at one point we saw walls that were on fire, and then we didn't see them anymore.
Right.
As the smoke began to clear, then we got a sort of a clear view inside what would have been this garden-style apartment complex or apartment building, and everything was just on the ground.
Right, and as what we have been looking at, we've seen, as you mentioned, the firefighters lifting off plywood, you know, moving box springs, moving couches, and moving them completely across the street with their hands, trying to just to clear the area, clear the space as they were tackling this fire. We've seen that one burned out work truck, other cars there in the back of the parking lot. You can see to the left, bottom left of the screen, I think our banner's about to cover it up, but 2 cars in that back parking lot of the apartment building and bricks everywhere. And the bricks clearly were blown out. I mean, you can just tell by their location on the sidewalk at the back of the unit.
And they went far. You know, I mean, you could see them across the street. You can see them into the neighbor's yard. You can see some debris over onto the side where the taller apartment building stands, the 4-story apartment building. There's some space there in between where the building ends and the fence begins. There was a bunch of debris that was scattered there. So again, when we were talking about indicators and signs of this, in fact, being an explosion, I mean, all of the evidence and all of the proof
absolutely
that is there, present.
All you have to do really from this angle is look at that 4-story apartment building next door to the building that exploded, and you can see crumbled the blinds, the blinds that are there in the windows. I mean, again, I use the, you know, kind of analogy. It looks like a giant fist, you know, went through the window and just crushed it. Yeah. You know, at all of those windows.
At every level.
Every level.
So when you start thinking again, you know, in the direction in which the explosion happened or just how powerful it was, we know that it wasn't only just strong left and right, but it went upwards as well. Because if you see those smashed out windows, even at the top floor and the 4th floor, which is 2 floors taller than the building that did explode, that speaks volumes of just how powerful this blast was. And Karen, I just, you know, it breaks my heart when we think about, we're only being confirmed by DFR that 4 people were taken to the hospital, and obviously we're praying for them and we're hoping for the best, but I can't help but to think that there are more people involved in this. We just don't have that tally yet.
And you know, I can't help but think of the terror that was felt. You know, we heard that little girl that was pulled from the rubble by witnesses, by people who were close by. And just imagine, put yourself in their situation and you think about the ground literally shaking under your feet, you know, jolting you blocks away. You can feel this blocks away. That is a powerful blast. It's a powerful blast that can cause bricks to shoot outward from a building.
And you know, that's the testimony that we're hearing from witnesses there on the ground. Our reporter Marissa Armas has been speaking with a lot of folks out there, and they all kind of, you know, to a T, you know, describe it in the same fashion. They describe just how loud it was, and then some of the chaos, people screaming, people jumping. The one little girl, looks like several people witnessed that. The little girl being saved or taken onto an ambulance and rushed away. But you know, again, what happens next, right? That's what we're looking forward to now, seeing what the rest of the evening brings as far as this is concerned. We're seeing firefighters there on the ground starting to hit some hot spots. This is usually what happens after they get the majority of the fire out. We've seen that the aerial ladders, they've sort of turned their hoses off, so that's done. And at this point, we do know that they are using drones, and they are using just crews, you know, hands, eyes, and ears to see and survey the area, see if potentially there may be additional victims trapped underneath all of that.
Because you mentioned search and rescue crews. These are the best of the best at what they do. And the potential, the possibility of bringing these guys in. We talked about the drones, and we also talked earlier about dogs. And I wonder, though, at what point are you allowed to bring the dogs in because of the heat and you know, they don't have shoes.
And it may be a situation in which this is not the time to bring them in, but we do know that those are resources that are oftentimes used and deployed in situations like this. Because a lot of times the dogs, you know, obviously they're trained to detect things much better than a human can, and they can get into places a lot easier, get in and out of places that a human wouldn't be able to. So you know, but we haven't seen that. Again, we know that those are resources that exist. But you know, we do know that Dallas Fire Rescue, they have a handle on what's going on there. Unfortunately, it's not what anybody wants to see or not what anybody wants to hear. But this is what it looks like in a response to something as devastating as this. And again, I mean, I can't peel my eyes away from this.
Can you see at the bottom of the screen by our banner? Ken, you can see some firefighters. It looks like they're trying to tackle that little utility shed, or what I called the utility shed earlier.
Yeah.
That we said, look, they're
yeah,
roof.
so those are called pipe poles that they're using.
Yeah.
And it looks like they're using those poles to try and either tear off a piece of roof, or you know, any kind of the ceiling or the corners, or to bring down
what's left
pieces
of it,
2x4, because a lot of times what will happen is smoke will hide in
you see that it is coming out. You're right. So they're venting it.
I was just going to say, so that's a venting operation. That's a technical term, so I didn't want to throw that out there, but that's what they're doing. That is a venting operation, and what they're doing, they're trying to create space for that smoke or those embers that are maybe hiding to come out.
I very much appreciate Ken's expertise in this, because for those of you who are just joining us, Ken was a volunteer firefighter in a previous life. Yes, exactly. Right. But you do have that expertise, or you know exactly what they're doing. Where we as lay people who don't know, we just from what we see on TV and from watching situations like this, our knowledge is much more limited.
Yeah. Well, but I will tell you that a lot of it is a lot of common sense. I mean, we know what we're watching, right? We know what we're looking at, right? I mean, we wait on confirmation for a lot of details as well we should, but we know that something bad happened here. We know that this is a result of an explosion, and obviously we know that these operations and these efforts to try and put whatever hotspots are still going on, to put those out, that's still ongoing, and that there are efforts still to try and find any possible victims that may be trapped underneath all of this.
Yeah, and I don't see, I mean, we see some folks there in the center of the building kind of walking around, but I don't see a lot of digging like we were seeing before, the digging by hand, unless it's something, like if the tree line might be hiding.
Yeah, it's hard to tell because the helicopter was asked to stay back. So we can't get any closer. Earlier we could get a whole lot closer, but it's hard to tell. I'm just basing this also off of what the Dallas Fire Rescue Assistant Chief James Rust told us, that these efforts are underway. So we're taking him at his word. We do have additional sound and additional interviews that we want to share with you from witnesses on the ground nearby when this explosion happened, when all of this took place. Our crews were able to get some of that recorded, and we want to share that with you. Let's have a listen.
So I felt like a big boom. There was not one, but there was two of them. And then I took off running to the end of my street, because I live right there by the school, by James Bowie. That's how far we felt it. And then I got my car, came down here. There was multiple injuries.
I want to encourage our entire city, this entire state, the entire nation to come together and pray for all the people, all the families who are affected by this tragedy we are experiencing here today in our city. We ask everyone to please pray for our Dallas Fire Rescue personnel who are still fighting this fire. They do an amazing job under very, very difficult circumstances like this, and we just pray that they will be safe while they try to save and help every single person that they can affected by this.
That was Dallas Mayor Eric Johnson a little bit ago. He, along with other city officials, fire officials, addressing the media and the public right now on the little bit of information, quite frankly, that we know right now about what happened.
And I'm so curious as to what they can see with the drone that we can't see, from our the chopper angles that that we had. I wonder if that's what led them to that little utility shed that they have since, it looks like, they've kind of torn apart. They peeled back some of the layers of that shed to vent it and things, if what they were seeing that we weren't able to see.
Right, and we only know what they tell us, right? Because our helicopter, even though it's got a really powerful zoom lens and a camera, we can only see so much. That drone that we saw, there was at one point where you could see the drone flying overhead. And it was pretty close. So you would assume with the kind of technology that they have, the know-how of how to use that technology, that fire officials, have a real close eye and perspective of what it is that they're looking for as it pertains to any possible victims. We have not received any additional information since that news conference as to any additional injuries or any additional victims just in general. So right now, going to take that as a good thing, going to take that as good news, right? They say sometimes no news is good news, right?
Yeah, and I'm wondering, I don't want to say I'm heartened by the fact that we don't see any digging, but yeah,
because we
it's
did
just
see it
difficult to
earlier.
say. Yeah.
You're basically comparing what we're seeing now in this activity versus what we saw at the very beginning of the breaking news here, when we were seeing crews diligently working, and fire crews. You know, it looked like they had maybe a dozen to 20 of them, just kind of huddled together, working, just by hand to try and remove as much debris. And the debris was large. You know, we were seeing them move large pieces of plywood, 2x4. You said you saw one firefighter a piece of a sofa.
Right.
It was a sofa.
It was like a love seat, right? Exactly.
Yeah, it was huge, and just kind of grab that and just throw it across the street, just to try and
get it out of the way,
clear the way.
And again, some of this debris made its way on its own, presumably, onto the neighbor's roof, and. So this is impacting a lot of people, not just those residents in the building, and it is heartbreaking what those folks in that building, what they are facing now. Just because we pray for those folks who are injured, that they're not badly injured, that they recover quickly, and also we have to pray that there isn't any loss of life, but we do know that it is a possibility. We know it's a possibility. The way that the fire chief framed it, he said there are unknown possible fatalities. Yeah, so, those words exactly. That's on the table, unfortunately. I do want to remind you, for folks who are just joining us, there is a family reunification center that has been set up over at Adamson High School. And the reason I bring that up, this is really important because there is information, there are resources that are available to you. If you believe that a loved one, a family member was affected by this, if you yourself live nearby and are affected by this, and if you need some kind of help, it's there for you. It's available. There are city officials, there are emergency crews, there are people with access to other resources that you might need that are waiting for you over at Adamson High School. It's only a block or so, maybe 2 blocks away from the site of this blast of where it happened. So at that point, you will be reunified and with family members, with anybody who's missing. At that point, you can report anybody who's missing, and you can also take advantage of any other city resources that might be available to you to try and sort of get you through the next couple of hours, presumably the next couple of days, because something like this obviously does not go away anytime soon. No. But that's set up for you. Again, that's over at Adamson High School. You can make your way over there right now as we speak if you need to. And we were looking earlier at the, we talked about the crews that we saw when it was just so odd because they were still actively fighting this fire, when the flames we could still see shooting from all sides and from the top of the building. But there was a crew that was digging along by the sidewalk and by the easement, I guess. And yeah, it was just so unusual because they've cordoned off the area. They've let so many people out. So it does, it begs the question, what were they doing? And it to me, with the limited knowledge that I have, but again, based on my experience as a former volunteer firefighter in a previous lifetime, that to me speaks to a couple of things, and it speaks to basically a multi-effort operation at that point, because at that point we had crews that were still actively trying to put out the majority of the fire. We had crews that were protecting the exposures, meaning the nearby buildings, so that those don't catch on fire or that they don't, sustain any further damage. And then that group that you're talking about, Karen, which looked to me like they were in the beginning stages of search and rescue, where they were sort of removing piece by piece and trying to look underneath and see if anything was underneath all of that rubble, because at that point a significant amount of that building had already collapsed. I mean, it was on the ground. Yeah, and there's just almost nothing left of this building. I mean, it is a shell. It is a complete loss, and you can see the firefighters just kind of, in the foreground here at the kind of the bottom of the screen by our banner, a group of firefighters kind of huddled together, and then in the top part of the screen. But I don't see any firefighters walking inside what's left of the building anymore. Maybe a couple, 1 or 2. And just putting out hot spots. Well, the initial fire, it caused just an absolute massive plume of smoke to just shoot up into the air directly. I mean, it was seen for miles. We could see it from all of our aerial cams that we have positioned throughout the city, and it was thick, and it was tall. And you mentioned, we were getting calls from folks from all over asking that question, what is going on? And Yeah, and what is that? Can you see that at the top of the screen there, Ken? That I can't. It's too far away.
So that looks like
me.
it's some sort of a piece of heavy equipment, maybe a front loader of some kind.
Yeah.
Maybe they're starting to bring something in to start clearing some of this debris that they can't do by hand, because that's all they were able to do up until now.
Yeah.
Remember, I told you that they had to put the flames out before they can start bringing this equipment in, because now they're transitioning into this phase more than likely where you're going to see the full-on search and rescue take place now, and try and get underneath. So at this point, you might see more heavy machinery brought in, heavy equipment, front loaders, because, you know, there's only so much that, you know, hands and an individual can do and arms can do when you're trying to remove rubble. You do the best you can, but, you know, it's not always the best.
All right, so yeah, Nellie, we're going to bring in our First Alert meteorologist, Nellie Carreño. Nellie, we were talking earlier about just the warmer temperatures and the humidity and how difficult this must be for all of those firefighters there on scene.
Exactly, Karen, and you mentioned it, that really heat would be the main problem when it comes to weather in this explosion, not so much winds. We always worry about the winds because if you have wind gusts up to 30, 40 miles per hour, the fire could quickly spread. But I also want to show you this time lapse that one of our cameras got, and you can see here, this was between 1:30 and about 2:30, and then it started, obviously, the plume to get a little bit lower, but the winds have been gusting anywhere between 5 to 10 miles per hour, so not very strong winds. Right now, you can see our current winds 3 miles per hour in Dallas, 3 miles per hour in Waxahachie. So right now, once again, the firefighters did not have to contend with very strong winds, but they did have to deal with high temperatures. And you can see here, we're almost at 90 in Dallas. So as they were fighting this enormous fire, this explosion, they have been dealing with a heat index of near 90 degrees, or actually in the low 90s. So we're 88 in Dallas, 84 in Fort Worth. It is a hot afternoon, but we do have also some weather to talk about. I have one severe thunderstorm warning. It is not in the Dallas area. I want to show you. Obviously, the Bishop Arts area, Oak Cliff is south of Dallas, and in that area, we don't have any storms. We don't have any showers. But just over to the west, you see that we have a few thunderstorms that are rolling through, and we have one severe thunderstorm warning that I do want to show you. It is for Parker County, at least eastern and south central areas of Parker County. This is east of Weatherford. This is the cell. It is moving to the south-southeast at about 20 miles per hour. So they are moving along. Compared to yesterday, we had those storms that just kind of sat there. These are moving along. This severe thunderstorm warning is for Parker and parts of Tarrant, is specifically southwestern areas of Tarrant County. It is until about 4:15, and you can see why. We have 1.25 inches hail associated with this cell. It is moving towards the south at 20 miles per hour, and it also has wind gusts up to 60 miles per hour. So it will be in these areas in the next couple of minutes to about half an hour. Now we continue our special programming of the Dallas apartment explosion. Stay with us.
This is CBS News, Texas.
Breaking news right now at 4 o'clock. A massive 4-alarm fire in Dallas's Bishop Arts District. A gas leak led to an apartment explosion that sent 4 people to the hospital. And Dallas Fire Rescue telling us there are an unknown number of fatalities. They have put up a drone to search through the rubble and required crews from 71 Dallas Fire trucks and engines. A huge plume of smoke consumed the area and could be seen for miles.
Your CBS News Texas team was the first on air and online with this breaking news story for you. We have been following the developments over the past 2.5 hours, and you can see right now the damage of what is left. It is extensive, folks. At this hour, we're hearing from witnesses, and we're learning of stories of heroism in the midst of this chaotic and terrifying scene. With that, we say good afternoon to you. Thank you so much for joining us for CBS News Texas at 4 o'clock, everyone. I'm Ken Molestina.
And I'm Karen Borda. It has been a busy afternoon for Dallas Fire Rescue. Again, 71 units, as we know, responded to this massive scene at the Clyde Apartments, formerly known as El Ricardo.
So this is what it looked like shortly after that call came in at around 12:47 this afternoon. I want to show that to you. Look at that. You can see just how powerful the blast was. Mounds of debris and flames were raging where that building once stood. Again, in addition to mopping up the flames, crews are now well into search operations at this hour.
Again, Dallas Fire Rescue tells us they started getting calls of a gas leak before the blast. It all happened at East and 9th and North Patton Avenue. Now, this is a densely populated area of East Oak Cliff, Bishop Arts, within a stone's throw of many popular restaurants down West Davis Street.
Yeah, we do have live team coverage for you from Bishop Arts. Our Marvin Hurst is on the scene. He's gathering the very latest on the investigation. We also have Marissa Armas. She has been boots on the ground all afternoon speaking with witnesses. I want to go ahead and begin with Marvin and get the very latest from him. Marvin.
Do we have Marvin?
Looks like we don't have Marvin for you.
Okay, yeah, so we do have multiple crews there at the scene. We've got Marvin. We've heard from our Marissa Armas, who is there as well. And so we're covering this story from multiple angles. We've got so many things that we need to share with you. We've heard from the mayor. We've heard from the city manager. We've heard from Dallas Fire Rescue and Chief Como very briefly. Okay, so we do understand that we have Marvin now?
Let's go ahead and take him live now. Hey, Marvin, can you hear us okay?
Yeah, hey, what I was saying was that something is wrong. Something is deadly wrong, and that's because of the news conference that we held here with city leaders about 30 minutes ago. It was peppered with words like tragic, pray for them, tragic, tragedy, pray for them. But yet and still, city leaders would not come on the record and say that anyone had been killed in this blast. What we were able to get was from Dallas Fire and Rescue saying that this blast started at about, or this incident started at about 12:47. They responded. They got there at 12:49. It went from that to a 5-alarm fire, and that's what the incident is right now. And here is what the assistant chief said after that.
We put a drone in the air to canvass the area to see if we have any, if we see any victims or anything around. Once we get more information, we'll let you know. But at this time, there's unknown how many possible fatalities we may have. And also we have 4 people transported to the hospital.
So they would not take questions after he gave those statements. We are expecting them to speak again. So that was round 1 of the information that we're getting from them. We did put in a call to the Texas Railroad Commission. They say that they are aware of this blast because it does involve gas. So they do have an investigator that's coming down to look at this matter. But that's where things stand right now as far as the investigation is concerned. We'll get that briefing coming up sometime later. But right here after the blast started was my colleague, Marissa Armas. She was on the ground talking to people. Let's go to her now to find out what's going on the street. Marissa.
Yeah, Marvin, well, I'm here off of 10th and Denver, about a block and a half away from where this explosion happened. We're being told by neighbors that it happened at the El Ricardo Apartments off of 409 East 9th Street. Now, this situation has calmed down significantly. As you heard there, officials have confirmed that at least 4 people were transported to a local hospital. It's unclear if anyone has died, but just about 5 minutes ago, we did see the medical examiner pull into this area. So tragedy, as you described there, is truly what this is today. As you can see out here, we do still have several crews responding. We have fire crews on the ground, police, as well as gas crews. And again, this looks a lot different from what we saw earlier today. Earlier, when I had arrived here, I was right in front of that apartment complex building. Much of the front of it was gone. Crews were out here trying to take out those flames. The ladder was up, and about 40 firefighters were out there. We saw ambulances, people on stretchers. So a pretty active scene here. Now, earlier today, as I mentioned, I did speak to people who were in this area. Not only did they hear a loud boom, but they say they felt their homes shake. They felt the road here rumbling in this area. One man telling me that he saw a little girl stuck in the rubble. Another man telling me they saw people running towards that building. They tried to pull her out. And here's more on what they had to say.
Well, I was inside of my apartment. I was getting ready to leave, and then I felt the whole building just shake. So I ran outside thinking that it was like one of my neighbors, but like all of the neighbors came out, and I started seeing like smoke. So I started rushing to see like what was happening, and well, I had just seen like a good chunk of the building missing, and there was this little girl who was like barely getting out of the debris. And after that, like the fire just started spreading, and like it started getting worse.
So I felt like a big boom. There was not one, but there was 2 of them. And then I took off running to the end of my street because I live right there by the school, by James Bowie. That's how far we felt it. And then I got my car, came down here. There was multiple injuries. So I talked to a few people. It was a glass explosion. Paramedics, firefighters, everybody just showed up all at once.
A very, very scary scene here, and a lot of the folks who live on that block aren't being allowed back in their homes. The perimeter here is pretty big. It does stretch several blocks, so many of these folks are actually hanging out outside here because the area still isn't entirely safe. We've also noticed within the last 30 minutes, several people stopping by to look for their pets. Right now, they're being directed to go to the Dallas Animal Shelter, but as you heard the mayor there, the very tragic day, and everyone just hoping and praying that everyone's okay. We'll send things back to you.
Absolutely, Marissa. Thank you very much. So we do have a few other things that we want to talk about related to what's happening there in Dallas. We've got some storms on the radar. We know that that could impact firefighters' efforts in terms of searching for anybody who might still be trapped in the rubble.
Clock is running. So we've got First Alert meteorologist Nelly Carreño. She's joining us now with a look at all of that. But also, you had a clear look of what this initial plume of smoke looked like from our cameras.
Obviously, you know, it was a huge explosion. So you could see it from so far away. Take a look at this. You can see it behind us here, the plume of smoke, how it went up, and you could clearly see it. The good news is that we did not have strong winds, and that's something that you fear when you have a fire that's a 4-alarm or 5-alarm, you said. So we have light winds, and we don't have storms over that area. We could use a shower, but we don't have storms over that area. What we do have is the heat, and you guys mentioned it. So the firefighters are dealing with 90 degrees. That's what it feels like.
Absolutely,
Exactly. So let's go ahead and take a look at some of the storms as they move through. You can see here that I do have one severe thunderstorm warning where you see the little box over behind Karen there. That is a severe thunderstorm warning that involves Parker County and also parts of Tarrant County. It should expire around 4:15, so that's good news for us. And I do believe it will expire, and that's because they had some hail, about 1.25 inches, and some 60-mile-per-hour winds, but it has started to die down. So you can see it here. It is moving towards the south. I mentioned that the warning is until 4:15, parts of Tarrant, parts of Parker, and that's because of that possibility of some hail. But it has been weakening some as it moves south. However, if you live in Aledo, you need to get ready for some very heavy downpours, some lightning associated with this, and some small hail too. This is about to cross I-20. It's right over I-20, Parker County, moving into parts of western Tarrant County as well. So you can see here some of the areas that we're watching for that storm that does have a warning on it. If you live in Burleson, for example, around 4:40, you'll see the storm. And we have additional activity behind that one storm. You can see it north. This is the only warning we have, but obviously we're keeping under close eye on the rest of the activity. All of this is west of the Dallas area, so right now firefighters are not dealing with the possibility of lightning or strong winds or anything like that. But we are watching Wise County, as I mentioned, Jack County, and then overnight, this will fizzle out during the evening hours. By around 8 o'clock, it should be quiet, and then the chance of rain will be northeast of us, places like Paris and Sulphur Springs, and even parts of Collin County. So I'll have more information regarding this weekend and the heat because the temperatures will be going up. All that coming up.
All right, Nelly, thank you so much. So we are learning a little bit more about this explosion. We have learned that one patient, possibly two, taken to Parkland, 2 more taken to Methodist Dallas. We understand that one of those patients at Parkland is in good condition, which is very encouraging.
That's good to hear because we didn't, you know, we had no information on the condition of any of these patients up until now. So that is certainly, like you said, encouraging information. We continue to think about everybody involved, continue to pray for everyone who was affected by this, because again, when you see just how devastating this whole explosion was, you can't help but to think about all of these lives and all of these possible fatalities as the fire chief had talked about.
Right, and it's just so it's just frightening to think about, because when we talk about, like Marissa was mentioning, that 10 or so families live in this apartment building, and you mentioned, these were garden-style apartments. I'm guessing, looking at something like you know, built in the 60s or
right.
something like that. So certainly not a new build.
And that's not uncommon for this part of town if you're familiar with it. I mean, you can see the building, the apartment building that's directly north of it on the other side of the street. It also looks like one of those that was probably built sometime in that same era, you know, maybe 60s, 70s.
Right.
That's when this kind of construction was very popular. I mean, this is what apartment buildings looked like.
Exactly.
Not these massive sort of, you know, buildings that we see now.
So we know 10 or so families living in this building, and we don't know how many were inside. You know, initially I thought, you know, this is a really good thing that that school was let out. Like yesterday was the last day of school, so you know, the nearby schools, and there's Adamson High School that's right there, just a block or so away. You know, that thank goodness those schools aren't impacted. That this isn't something that there are a number of children possibly affected. But then on the flip side, you have to consider then that because the children were in school, there's a definite possibility that they were there inside, at home, inside that building. Because again, this is not like, you know, maybe studio apartments. These are, you know, families lived here. And we do know from witnesses, at least one little girl was rescued.
Was rescued, yeah, we saw that. That witness speaking to our Marissa Armas there on the ground. Marissa standing by live for us once again. I want to see if we can get back out to Marissa. Marissa, I think you have some new information regarding the medical examiner. Is that something that you're seeing, some activity that you're seeing with medical examiner crews out there on the scene?
Yeah, and I think it's something that none of us wanted to see, right? We did see about 15 minutes ago the medical examiners here pull up to the area and go head over to where that apartment complex is. You know, I know so many of us are hoping and praying that everyone is okay, but we do know in situations like that when a medical examiner does show up, you know, they're usually searching for folks who likely may not be alive at this moment. Now, again, we did hear people tell us that they heard people screaming. We saw, you know, we didn't see, but a witness did see a man pulling a little girl out of that building. Several folks tell me that there were at least 10 units in this apartment complex, and so it's hard to say, you know, how many folks may be stuck in the rubble there or what exactly they're looking for. I did speak to a man who lives across the street, and he said, you know, it's usually a pretty busy apartment complex. But yeah, that's the latest here on the ground, and we'll be sure to bring you any updates as we get them.
All right, Marissa, thank you very much.
Marissa Armas has been there on the scene for us for a couple of hours now. Presumably she's going to stay there for a little bit as we continue to cover this, the breaking news story and all of the developments that were happening. But you know, what Marissa was talking about is exactly what I think Mayor Johnson was sort of hinting at, and so many other leaders when they took to that podium about an hour ago now, addressing the public, addressing the media, and immediately asking for thoughts and for prayers, immediately asking for everyone to come together as a community. When you hear people start to talk like that, you can only think of the worst. And now Marissa Armas is reporting that she's starting to see Dallas County medical examiner crews show up to the scene.
It's not like when the medical examiner is called in, it's not like with ambulance crews where we saw a number of ambulances earlier just waiting on standby. The medical examiner is not brought in on standby.
Right.
It's that crew is brought in when they know that there are fatalities.
You know, if we're monitoring the details as they're happening in real time and taking stock of it all, what we're seeing now is, again, the search, maybe even recovery effort, dare I say at this point, is usually what happens in something like this. Obviously, the Dallas Fire Rescue, they're going to have to confirm all of those details for us. But just what we know so far right now, this is sort of trending in a direction in which we more than likely will start hearing about fatalities here pretty soon.
Right. And it's just heartbreaking. It really is. And you know, we knew that as soon as we heard the words when we were in our newsroom earlier, and you know, the folks, our wonderful hard workers who work on our assignment desk, you know, shouted out the words, an explosion at an apartment complex in Dallas. I mean, my heart dropped because I knew exactly, you know, where this would probably lead.
You start thinking about similar examples of explosions that have happened, similar events that have taken place in recent memory involving this kind of activity, involving this kind of a tragedy, where all of a sudden, out of nowhere, you know, a building, a home, and those other examples, the ones that I'm thinking about, explode, just without warning. It ends up being some sort of a gas explosion, and now we've got families grieving the unnecessary loss of life, and just absolutely breaks your heart when you hear of this. And then when you hear of something like this happening, obviously in an apartment complex where you're talking about multiple units, multiple dwellings, you're talking about several families involved. It's kind of hard to put any words to just how frightening it is when you hear the initial report. Then you start seeing the images that we've been seeing all afternoon, and now we get to the point where we're hearing that the medical examiners has shown up.
And honestly, you have to hope that those folks who are in the neighboring buildings, that house right there to the right of the apartment building, that those folks, because that was a blast, and you can see like the debris on the roof right there of the house right there. You have to hope that those folks who are inside the house, because if windows break open, I mean, flying glass, I mean, just that alone, you have to hope that there weren't injuries by those folks just in proximity to the apartment building that exploded.
I mean, at this point, until we get full confirmation, all of those things are possible. We've been hoping, and we've been praying, and we continue to do so, and hope that this doesn't get any worse than what we understand it to be right now. But it's certainly trending in that direction. I'm
so sorry to. Tell me what you see in this shot right here, Ken. I'm looking at the inside of the apartment building. You can still see the hot spots, a little bit of smoke, a little bit of smoldering, but I'm seeing a group of firefighters clustered in the center of the building. They're kind of in the middle of the screen.
Okay.
And
yeah, I can't tell. Yeah.
Do you see the yellow hats?
Yeah, the yellow hats. Okay. So, I'm not sure if those are crews that are going in there to put out hot spots, or if those are in fact at this point, recovery or rescue crews.
That's what my thought is.
And I'm guessing it's going to be the latter.
Yeah.
Because we don't see them holding any fire hoses to indicate that they're going after any kind of hotspots. What we're seeing is, I can't count from here, but it's at least a dozen.
Yeah.
It's at least a dozen firefighters that are now in the middle. And it looks like what happens now is that they go very slowly and meticulously go through the rubble right now to try and see if they can in fact find any victims, any I hate to say it, but any possible fatalities underneath all of that rubble.
What I'm seeing, just body language, I don't know, because there's not a lot of movement, it's like they're just kind of.
Right. So what happens usually is they're sort of mapping out the area, or it's already been mapped out for them, and they're going, inch by inch.
Yeah.
You don't, at this point, you don't move fast.
Right.
You move meticulously. You move thoughtfully and very intentionally about what you're doing here, and this looks again, to be more along the lines of a recovery effort than a rescue.
Oh, it's just heartbreaking just to think about, much less see.
We know that they were using a drone. I'm not sure if that drone is still up or not, and perhaps the drone is giving them information that we don't know about, and that's why they were assembled the way that they are, working
and
the way
when you
that
think
they are.
It must be so difficult too to actually try to find the remains that you need to recover, because everything is burned.
I know.
And it's in a situation like that with
So and that looks to be, by the way, a medical examiner's van. Pull it in, which is what Marissa was talking about. This is why the medical examiner has been brought in, because now at this point, it's going to be slower.
Right.
Okay. It's going to be very, very, very methodical to try and recover, what you can. And the people who are experts in that are, medical examiner.
And this has got to be so heart-wrenching for those firefighters on scene. This is something that, their jobs, their purpose, they see themselves, that they're saving lives, they're lifesavers and first responders. And when, you're in a situation where
These types of tragedies, they're called tragedies for a reason, because a lot of times, these firefighters, you go in, wanting one outcome, but unfortunately, life dictates something differently, and this is now the reality of what they're having to deal with, and they're having to sort of digest that reality, sort of switch gears. But again, this is what makes them the best at what they do, because this is not a job that anybody can do.
Right.
To have to sift or switch gears now into this sort of a mode after you went in there thinking something completely different in the beginning. I mean, this is still part of the job. It's just the other side of the coin for them.
Right. And it's going to be very difficult. But see, again, you can still see them kind of grouped together, cloistered together in the middle of what was left of that building. And again, putting out hot spots. I see a little bit of a little fire hose right there.
Yeah.
And I know that
Go ahead.
This will continue to burn.
Yeah, so that's what I was going to tell you. You know, the hot spots, I mean, that's going to take, this is going to go on well into the night. I wouldn't be surprised if, you know, tomorrow morning, you know, they're still talking about maybe putting out some hot spots because, you know, a fire that burned this hot, I mean, the intensity of this was unbelievable. You know, it's one thing to see this through the lens and through a zoom camera on a helicopter. It's a completely different thing when you're on the ground and you're fighting this and you know just how hot this is burning. So there's a lot of things that need to be, you know, sifted through. At some point, you know, there are going to be investigators that need to get into this scene, obviously not right now, to try and figure out exactly what happened, where it started, why it happened, and all of those questions that so many of us are asking right now but don't have the answers to. There are investigators that are going to need to get in there and do that. So again, when you talk about them at this point, right, in this phase of the operation, moving methodically, they have to try and preserve what little is left, what little they can. I mean, and it's a hard thing to sort of fathom when you look at this and say, well, Ken, what are you talking about? What evidence? What preservation? There's nothing left. Well, but believe it or not, there are little things and there are little indicators in there that investigators are going to be looking for. So this is not the time to go in there and further disturb what is going on. This is the time to go in there and move methodically at this point, move extremely intentionally to try and preserve any of that evidence that we're talking about, and obviously to still try and figure out if there are any victims, if there are any remains, or any recovery that needs to take place underneath all of that. I mean, a couple of hours ago, this was a full-on, you know, 10-unit, 2-story garden-style apartment complex, and now it's sticks and burned-out rubble.
Right, and not many sticks left at that.
So this is you know, obviously now, at least to me, Karen, it seems like a complete sort of shift in tone, in effort for this operation. Yeah. Right, exactly. So the initial response is over. We're pivoting to you know, the what happens afterwards, the what happens next, and that's this. That's putting out hot spots, that's mopping up whatever, you know, needs to be mopped up, but then at the same time trying to find any possible victims, you know, through search efforts, and then at the same time, like I said, I mean, I know it sounds silly to say it when you see this, but you know, preserving what little bit you can, so that investigators could later get in there and do their job and try and solve the questions of what happened, why it happened, and ultimately it's going to come down to who's to blame for this.
And I know, and I know that a lot of people are thinking, okay, that's probably something that we need to save for another day, but so many people are wondering that. I know. And it's just hard. It's just a really, really hard situation. And you know, we were talking about the fact that look at the number of firefighters who are there, the ones at the top of the screen, the ones who are resting, the ones who are themselves recovering from the effort of fighting this huge fire. You know, they've shed a lot of their gear, but 71 Dallas fire trucks and engines, about 100 or more firefighters, so a 5-alarm fire.
Yeah. At that point, you're talking about every available resource in the Oak Cliff area. Sure. You're talking about every available resource that can come in from downtown and from the uptown area. And when you go into 5, at that point, you know, you're really talking about, you know, cycling and rotating crews out. So at this point, you know, if there are other crews that can come from even in North Dallas or, you know, from far areas away from where this is happening, they're being brought in. As long as their stations are covered, they're being brought in now. But, you know, it doesn't get bigger than a 5-alarm fire. That's the biggest response.
It's been a long time since we've covered a 5-alarm. Thank goodness it's been a long time since we've covered a 5-alarm
I think the last time was maybe First Baptist Church in downtown Dallas. Do you remember when that was? I want to say maybe 2 years ago now.
Right. Was it 5?
So that was that was a similar response with a 5-alarm fire. But you know, that's about as big as it gets. Sure. Anything beyond that, you're talking about. And it's not at this point, but anything beyond that, you're talking about mutual aid where nearby cities and nearby municipalities are now starting to come in. So now you're talking about a regional response rather than just a city.
Right. Well, this is something that is going to, you know, impact our area, I think, for a while. Even though we're talking about one building, possibly 10 or so families, I mean, there are so many more people impacted, you know, in the surrounding area. We were talking, you know, the mayor was talking to Chad West, who is the councilman for this area, and you know, and giving his pledge that the city will do everything it can to, you know, to help these folks get back on their feet, to help them recover. I know the Red Cross obviously has been called out, as they often are, to you know, when things like this happen. And you can see right now these firefighters getting out a blanket.
Yeah. These are. We know what this means.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, this is kind of what we were forecasting.
Yeah.
And hoping that we didn't have to. But this looks like perhaps. This is a fatality that they have found. But this is, again, what I'm telling you, Karen, the way they have to move, they have to move slowly at this point. You know, the fire's gone. They have to move very slowly. They can't miss an inch, because if they miss somebody, this is somebody's loved one that we're talking about. This is somebody's family member. This is a friend. This is somebody. And unfortunately, this is what's happening now. How much of this we're going to see, I don't know. But my goodness, we're hoping and praying that it's not much more of this.
So we are following the story of this apartment building explosion in Dallas in the East Oak Cliff area, and we will have much more coverage when we come right back.
Welcome back, everyone, and thank you for joining us as we continue to cover breaking news here at 4:30. I'm Ken Molestina.
And I'm Karen Borda. We continue to follow the breaking news in the Oak Cliff section of Dallas. Our CBS News Texas chopper is over the scene of what is left of the 5-alarm fire at an apartment complex on East 9th Street. Dallas leaders are calling this an explosion that led to the fire. Right now, search efforts continue for really remains at this point as the fire is under control.
We kind of want to rewind a little bit here, take you back to about 1:30, showed you what it looked like at that time frame. This is when our helicopter was able to get over scene initially. This is what it looked like. We had flames and a lot of smoke engulfing the apartment complex. According to Dallas fire officials, the first call for this came in sometime at around 12:47 p.m. First crews arrived 2 minutes later, they say. More than 70 units, engines, other equipment from Dallas all throughout town. Dallas Fire Rescue, they were called out to the scene. The assistant chief for the department spoke to the media about an hour ago. We do want to share with you what he had to say about the department's response and their efforts. Have a listen.
At 12:47, our dispatch center received a gas leak call at the 400 block of East 9th Street. Crews quickly arrived at 12:49, a 2-minute response, and quickly upgraded to a second alarm fire. Shortly after, it continued to escalate and upgrade. At this time, we are at a 5-alarm fire. The fire is contained, but our members are still working on the scene to do primary searches. We put a drone in the air to canvass the area to see if we have any, if we see any victims or anything around. Once we get more information, we'll let you know. But at this time, there's unknown how many possible fatalities we may have, and also we have 4 people transported to the hospital in unknown conditions at this time.
We were just listening to Dallas Fire Rescues. That was Assistant Chief James Russ talking about the response and the possible fatalities that they don't know how many. To that point, I want to mention to you that just a little bit ago, while we were in commercial break, we did get images that we were looking at. It appeared that fire crews found at least 1 body underneath all of that rubble. It was placed into a blue bag, a tarp of some kind, and it was removed and loaded onto the back of the medical examiner's truck, which was called out to the scene. So we know that they are still undergoing search efforts, but really what we're talking about here at this point is recovery efforts. We don't know how many people possibly may have been under all of that rubble, but just about 5 minutes ago, these firefighters, they did find 1 body, and they were able to remove it from the rubble and put it onto the back of a medical examiner's truck.
And right now, where you see those firefighters centered, that is where they found the remains that they did take, as Ken mentioned, to put in the back of the medical examiner's van. And one has to hope that they're not searching for more remains that are in that area.
You know, kind of hard to see it from this vantage point because of some of the smoke that's still sort of smoldering pieces of wood there in the area. But if you're watching along with me here, I'll just walk you through it. You can see some of those yellow or green looking helmets. Those are the firefighters there in the middle of what would have been the garden area of this garden style apartment complex. And what they're doing at this point is they are moving very, very methodically and very intentfully. So slowly at this point to try and cover every single inch, the footprint of this apartment complex or building rather. And at this point, we know that what they're looking for are any additional victims that might be underneath all of that rubble. So they can't miss anything.
Right.
And considering the fire itself, how hot it burned, the length in which it burned, the fashion in which it was put out with all of the fire hoses, the aerials and all of that, there's a good chance that the majority of the victims are going to be buried underneath all of this.
Right.
We continue to pray and we continue to hope that there weren't that many people home at the time that this happened. But the reality here, Karen, and for folks who are watching is we don't know.
Right.
We don't know.
Right, and we did hear, as you mentioned, we heard ourselves from a moment ago from the assistant fire chief. They don't know just how many people. We do know that of the 4 people who were taken to the hospital, 2 were taken to Parkland, 2 were taken to Methodist, and at least 1 who was taken to Parkland is in good condition. So that is heartening.
Right, exactly.
That is encouraging.
We also want to remind folks who are watching right now that a reunification center has been set up over at Adamson High School. That's about a block or 2 away from the scene of where all of this is unfolding. At that point, or at that location rather, officials are saying they're working hard to reunify anybody who has any concerns over loved ones, over friends, anyone who might have been involved in this, someone that maybe you're trying to get a hold of that isn't answering a phone call or returning a text message. They're saying if you have these concerns, if you need the resources, they are there. They're standing by, and they are ready to welcome you and help you out with whatever it is that you need. So that's over at Adamson High School right now at the gym.
Right.
That is still open. It's going to presumably be open throughout the night, and these resources are going to be available for you just as you need them.
So taking a look at the scene right here, you can see it, bright daylight. It doesn't look like there's probably a cloud in the sky, but we know that that's not the case everywhere in North Texas. We're going to send things back over to our First Alert meteorologist, Nelly Carreño, because we've got, what is another storm warning out there, Nelly?
Fortunately, this is mainly for parts of Tarrant County, Parker County, over into Hood and Johnson. You can see here we have quite a few storms. Fortunately, they are not near the Dallas area where we have the fire. So right now, firefighters and rescue efforts can continue. They don't have to deal with lightning or anything like that in Dallas County. However, just over to the west, we do have some very heavy rain, and we also have some hail associated with this. So let's go ahead and take a look at that severe thunderstorm warning. It is a new one, and this is for parts of central and eastern Parker County. You can see here right now, it's right over Weatherford. It is moving towards the southeast at about 25 miles per hour. And this warning will be in effect until about 5:30. And you can see that it does encompass parts of central Tarrant County. So if you live in Crowley, if you live in western areas of Fort Worth, just be aware that this storm has 60-mile-per-hour winds, and we have registered some hail that's about 1.25 inches. So it is moving to the southeast. Let me show you the areas that need to be aware of this. First of all, in that same spot where the storm is, it's right over Aledo right now, the one with the warning. We have a second one that's moving in right behind it. The second one, as of right now, doesn't have a warning, but it has very heavy downpours, and it also has some small hail associated with it. So we could see some additional flash flooding. So this is where we have the severe thunderstorm warning. It does encompass I-20 in Parker County from Fort Worth points over towards the west, although Fort Worth is not part of the warning at this moment. Weatherford is part of it, Willow Park, and over into Aledo. So these are the areas that need to be aware that it's headed towards you. If you live in places like Godley, over into Lake Granbury, Joshua, or Bono, it is headed your way. Once again, it's got 60-mile-per-hour winds, some hail about 1.25 inches size, and that could cause some damage. So be aware of that. Now, this is the rotation associated with it. This is a surface low that is spinning over into Oklahoma and parts of Kansas, but you can see how it's pivoting some of that moisture towards us. This should end with the end of daytime heating. So 7, 8 o'clock, this should all die down, and we should have a quiet night overall. And now, mostly dry conditions will prevail this weekend. We haven't said that in a while. Now, it doesn't mean completely dry. We'll have a 10 to a 20% chance of an isolated shower, isolated thunderstorm, but most of Saturday, Sunday, and into Monday should be fairly dry, but it will be hot. Today, we're in the upper 80s. Obviously, we're thinking about all those firefighters that are fighting the fire, or that have been in the last couple of hours, because not only is it 88 in Dallas, with the humidity, it already feels like 90, and it could feel up to 100 over the weekend. So you need to take some heat prevention, right? Make sure you drink a lot of water if you're headed out to any outdoor activities. Right now, we're still at 88 in Dallas, a little bit cooler in Fort Worth at 83 due to the cloud cover, and obviously 72 in places like Wise County where we've had those storms move through. So in the next few hours, you'll watch the storms that I just mentioned start to fizzle out. So I don't expect these to ramp up or see additional storms later on this evening. And overnight, it will be fairly quiet. If we see anything, it will be Sherman, Bonham, Greenville, Paris. In that whole area, we'll have about a 20% chance of an additional shower or thunderstorm. And tomorrow, Friday, looks mostly dry. Again, we haven't said that in a while, so that's good news for us. So tomorrow, the high, these are the actual temperatures, 92, Saturday 92, 94 on Sunday. But with the humidity, this is what it will feel like. So you need to get ready for 96 tomorrow. It will feel like 95 on Saturday. It will feel like 98 on Sunday. And so for the next couple of days, drier conditions, hotter conditions, temperatures in the actual 90s, and with the humidity, it will feel near 100. Now, we'll get back to our special coverage.
Nelly, thank you so much.
We are bringing you some live pictures once again of what is now clearly a recovery effort with Dallas Fire Rescue crews. First responders were on the ground moving very methodically now to sort of cover every single inch of the footprint of where this apartment complex once stood, looking for victims. We did see a little bit ago off camera here that there was one body that was recovered. It was pulled out of the rubble, placed into some sort of a blue tarp or perhaps a bag, and then taken over to the medical examiner's van that was waiting nearby. So that was a little bit ago, and I understand that perhaps they may have found a second one. We're purposely, by the way, folks, not showing you these images. We're telling you what we are able to see sort of off camera here, and just to kind of bring you the updates.
And it's still sort of a supposition
as to where this is going.
But it looks like perhaps that this is the case.
And certainly we're going to get more information confirmed as the night goes by. But I did want to share that with you and share some testimony basically from our end on, unfortunately, what we're witnessing from these chopper images. Do want to take you out now to Marvin Hurst. Marvin Hurst is one of our reporters on the scene as well. Marvin, last time we spoke here, you heard what the mayor said, asking for thoughts and prayers. You had the sense that something was clearly wrong here, something was not going well. Now we're seeing the blue tarps, and we're seeing what presumably looks to be bodies being pulled out of the rubble, loaded onto the ME's van. What do you make of this? What are people saying out there?
You know, Ken, all you have to do is really look at the visuals and start putting the pieces together. How many news conferences do you see that kind of city brass at, standing here making statements? They just don't go out to fires. They just don't go out to any explosion. But they were here. The city manager, the mayor, they had city council people here talking, asking for prayer, talking about tragedy. You know, May 28th can be remembered for a lot of things, but May 28th, 2026 will certainly go down in the history books as a day in Oak Cliff that, you know, had, reunification for some and possibly tragedy for others. You know, at that time, you know, most people are having lunch. But at this particular time, these folks were really scrambling to either try to save their lives, and there's some who possibly lost their lives. According to Dallas Fire and Rescue, this happened about 12:47. You know, there were reports that they heard an explosion, and then they say, but that's not confirmed. So we do know that there was some kind of a gas leak, though. They responded to that according to them, about 12:49. When they got there, the incident just started to blossom, and it blossomed into a 5-alarm fire. It has since been contained. 4 people transported to the hospital. They tell us there was an unknown amount of fatality. So they did tell city leaders something for each and every one of those city leaders who approached that microphone to say tragedy, pray. Tragedy. That just continues to reverberate in my bones. I say they keep saying that, but they won't confirm the deaths. But we are waiting for them to come back and give us another briefing, and of course we'll be here. Ken, Karen.
Marvin, I appreciate your observations so much, because that was something that got by me. You're right, because sometimes I think the word tragedy can be overused, and that was my assumption, that maybe it was my naivety, because I wanted to believe that maybe it wouldn't end up in tragedy. But you know, I was hopeful because there were people that were rescued. That maybe everyone had gotten out okay.
We want to believe the best, and we still want that, by the way. You know, that hasn't changed. You know, however this shapes out, we are hoping and still praying for the very best outcome, considering all of the circumstances here. But we do know now that at least from what we can tell, that there was one body that was recovered from underneath the rubble, possibly a second one as well from a shot that we did not share with you live here on the air, but we could see it here off to our sides on the monitors. It seemed that there was a second one. But you know, as heartbreaking as this is for us to see this and to sort of come to terms with what we're seeing, this is also something that is very much part of the work that these first responders do. And the reason I want to bring that up and the reason I want to point that out is because this is the other side of the coin of what they do. That a lot of times I don't think that you know, we talk about enough, and that is having to recover some of these bodies, having to methodically go through the rubble, piece by piece, inch by inch, so that they don't miss one in case there is another one there. It also,
as you mentioned, I mean, these are people's loved ones. These are people's,
absolutely,
you know, brothers, sisters, uncles, cousins.
And who knows? These are probably, you know, victims whose maybe their loved ones don't even know yet that this has happened. So, you know, you want to preserve as much evidence as possible. You want to preserve as much humanity as possible in all of this, and decency and dignity. And that's exactly what these firefighters are doing. And you know, we ought to be thankful for that. But at the same time, you can't help but to feel the heartbreak now that we're seeing some of these images, and you know, you start to do some of the math here, and what this is adding up into now is a, you know, a multiple fatality situation. Obviously, that's going to get confirmed later on in the day, and we'll have to hear the final count or the tally from fire officials. But
even one is
things
hard.
Are certainly going in that. Absolutely. I mean, we just saw it, and our jaws dropped. And I think most of us, when you consider what we saw, when we consider how hot that fire was, the blast and all of the evidence, it's hard to believe that there weren't any. You don't want to believe that there weren't any fatalities.
But logic
absolutely. But logic dictates something different, and now we're sort of seeing those crossroads now between, you know, expectation and reality.
And, you know, I've noticed that, you know, again, we talked about the number of firefighters there, the number of apparatus. I mean, there are still, even though the fire is out, a large number of firefighters on scene, and we're seeing a number of other crews involved. Are they Atmos crews, the guys in the white hats? I don't know, but you know, there are going to be a lot of questions coming up in the days and weeks ahead. A lot of people.
You know, if this turns out to be just some, you know, I don't know what you want to call it, but just another gas explosion here. In the city of Dallas. This is not something new, unfortunately. This is something that is very frightening. And this is something that is top of mind. Whenever you hear of something like this happening, I know it happened to us here, right? When we heard that this is a possible gas explosion in an apartment complex, I think a lot of us looked at each other and said, oh boy, not again.
Not again, yeah.
Not again.
Right.
And what does that mean? You know, who needs to go out here and sort of solve this so that we're not seeing these types of things? And again, I don't want to get ahead of myself.
Yeah, exactly, because there's so many reasons this could have happened.
Right.
And we don't know yet.
We certainly don't know.
But we're not alone, I know, in asking these questions. There are people at home who are watching this thinking, how did this happen?
And to that point, you know, we want to let people know that we're asking the same questions. And at some point, there will have to be answers to this one way or another, and we will certainly provide those answers to you just as soon as we get them and get them confirmed. But right now, again, what we can confirm is that 4 people were taken to nearby hospitals. 2 of them were taken to Methodist, and I think another 2 over to Parkland as well.
And one is in good condition.
And one of them is in good condition, so that we know for sure.
And that's always good, because Parkland is a level 1 trauma center. We know that, and it's also at a burn unit.
Right.
And so that's so when I heard 2 had gone to Parkland, you know, my first thought was, oh, you know.
And you know, that's just a hop, skip, and a jump away from where this is. Obviously, a Methodist is just right up the street. I mean, that's within a 3-minute, you know, ambulance ride, maybe even less from where this happened. Methodist Hospital and Parkland, not too far from there. So we're hoping that these folks got to the hospital, got to the emergency room, and into the hands of doctors and nurses just as soon as they could. All indication is that they did, and we even heard of one witness saying that he saw a little girl being rescued, taken. You know, we heard 2 different witnesses say as much. One of them, we heard it in Spanish, speaking to our reporter Marissa Armas, and the other person, you know, saying something. I think it was looked like a Zoom interview or something.
Right.
But again, and all of those things are checking out. But folks, you know, this is something, again, the initial call, it came in at about 12:47. That's what our notes show. And it was a call for a gas leak, possible explosion. We understand that fire crews responded within 2 minutes. So there is a fire station literally on the other side of the street here from where this happened. Presumably that's the first due fire engine that showed up, confirming that this was in fact a structure fire, a gas explosion. At that point, this went into a second alarm, quickly then into a third and a fourth, and then ultimately at the highest level, a 5-alarm fire is what fire officials are confirming now.
Yeah, and so we understand we were talking to Nellie earlier. She was showing us about the thunderstorm warnings that had cropped up, you know, the storms that had popped up in Tarrant County and I think it was Parker County. And she says that we now have some rain entering Dallas County. Let's go back to Nellie really quickly to find out exactly where those showers are. Hopefully they're not storms and hopefully they won't be impacting what's going on here in this part of Oak Cliff. Nellie.
They're not storm, Karen, and I was just talking with our chief meteorologist, McKenna, and we've been saying that we would love just a shower to go through there to try to help them out with what's left of the fire. And we have this shower. It's nothing intense. It's no lightning or anything like that. And you notice, so this is Dallas. Oak Cliff is just down to the south. And you notice how it's moving through Grand Prairie and kind of dipping down a little bit. So our hope is that some of this moves down a little bit to the south and at least gives it a few sprinkles, nothing heavy, but something that can help them out. So that is moving towards the Dallas area, the Cocker Hill area, and ultimately it will move over Oak Cliff. Now it could fizzle out even a little bit more before it reaches them in about 15 to 20 minutes, but I do think they'll get at least a few sprinkles out of this. Now the severe weather is over towards the west as one severe thunderstorm in parts of Parker County, and obviously McKenna will have more coming up at 5.
All right, Nellie, thank you. All right, so let's go back out to our chopper shot if we could. This is breaking news that we've been on the air, what, since about 1:45 or so?
It sounds about right, yes.
In that area there. And we have seen it started with a huge fire at this 2-story apartment building in Oak Cliff, in the east part of Oak Cliff. A mile or two north of the zoo.
Right. And probably a half mile, if that far, and probably less away from the very popular Bishop Arts Entertainment District. So just to the east of Bishop Arts, the entertainment strip, if you know the area, you know where I'm talking about.
Right by Adamson High School.
I mean, on the other side of the street from Adamson, and just north of the zoo. So that kind of gives you an idea of where this is happening. This is an area, Karen, that has seen a lot of expansion lately in the past couple of years, a lot of redevelopment, a lot of new development taking place out there as sort of developers have been focusing in on this part of Dallas to bring in new homes, new housing opportunities.
It's like a facelift for this part of the
Absolutely. And this is also, you know, to that point, you know, a part of the city that is historic in many ways. You know, this is a part of the city that has existed for many years. At one point, Oak Cliff was its own city. It wasn't even part of Dallas. It was its own incorporated city. It was annexed later on. So this is an area that has a lot of history and it has a lot of families that have lived there for generations. I say all of that because when we take a look at what's going on here now, what we see is new housing. You know, with some of these new apartment buildings, new developments, we see old single-family homes that still exist there, and we see this building that is now burned to the ground. What was a building, which was, like you said, a 1960s, 1970s style garden-style apartment building, typically 2 floors, 10 or 12 units, and if you're familiar with this, you know that this is something that exists quite, you know, quite frankly, all throughout Dallas as well. But now, you know, this is what's left of it. And from where we're sitting right now, what you can see is fire officials that are now conducting recovery efforts. Recovery efforts.
Right, and you know, this is a very solemn part of their job, and as you mentioned, they're moving intentionally, they're moving thoughtfully, they're moving methodically through the rubble, what's left of this. And it really is incredible when we think about what we saw when we first came on the air 3 or so hours ago, that I mean, which was a raging, you don't like to use the term inferno, but it really was.
No,
I mean,
it was.
Fire was shooting from every single corner of that building, and as you can see, as a result, there is just almost nothing left. Well, and right now, their mission there is putting out hotspots, but
yeah, we heard an assistant chief, Chief James Russ, talking about where their efforts sort of shift now. We know that they were using drones to try and find any possible victims. Perhaps those drones are what's leading these crews right now to sort of dig and look in certain very specific spots. But again, you know, this is sort of the grim reality of it all, that we didn't want to get to this point, but I think most people, knowing what we've been seeing throughout the afternoon, knew that at some point we would get here.
Is that like a little what is that, the ditch?
Looks like a Bobcat. Is that what you're talking about? Yeah, it's a Bobcat, like a little front loader. And so they're basically, you know, the pieces of debris and rubble that the firefighters can't pick up with their own hands. That's what they're using it for. So heavy machinery, essentially. You know, but again, I mean, this is all mapped out, you know, and they're going, you know, inch by inch to try and get to these possible victims there.
Yeah, and they're, you know, you think about the folks who live in this neighborhood, because this work is going to continue for quite a while. There are folks who live in the building next door, in the house across the street, and there's an apartment building across the street, the house next door. Yeah. And all of these folks are being kept out of their homes. A lot of these people are trying to recover their pets, and you know, because you know, they left their pets in the building or in the houses or apartment buildings nearby. Sure. And all of these folks are going to be kept away for a little bit. Sure. And you know, one of the things that we're not seeing it right now, and we specifically chose not to show that to you, but we did see what appeared to be 2 bodies being removed. We certainly saw one and what appeared to be a second one shortly after. So again, that speaks to the recovery efforts that are underway right now. And sort of, you know, what will happen in the next couple of hours as crews continue to sort of scour through that area. Right, and it looks like that empty lot across the way is going to be the depository for where you can see that grabber that was. Yeah, for all the debris. Yeah, because they're going to have to move all of it out of there. And it's handy that they've got a lot right there. Moving it from one side just across the street to the other is a pretty efficient way. We heard Eric Johnson, the mayor of Dallas, you know, asking the entire community for prayers. Right. That was sort of one of the first indicators that even they knew that they were up against something pretty grim here. Right. And I think Marvin said it well. He said this is the kind of thing where you don't have your city manager, your mayor, your police chief, your assistant fire chief, that, you know, just to a run-of-the-mill fire. Yeah. This is something that they knew was going to be a tragedy. Absolutely. And they showed up in force. Absolutely. And have promised the city, that part of the city, that they're going to do everything they can to make it right. My friends, we've been following breaking news coming out of Oak Cliff, this apartment explosion. We're going to have a whole lot more coming up right now on CBS News at 5 o'clock with Doug Dunbar. Don't move.
CBS News, Texas.
Right now at 5 o'clock, welcome in. We still are on top of this breaking news. This was the scene, if you missed it, around 1:30 this afternoon. That big, thick plume of black smoke. It could be seen for miles across the landscape. And it was coming directly from basically Dallas's Bishop Arts District, right on the fringes, after people in that neighborhood told us point blank they heard an explosion, and then clearly we all saw the fire. CBS News Texas chopper right now. Let me take you and switch you to a live picture. The location, East 9th Street, Patton Avenue, and now the really difficult and the sobering work of looking for victims, possible victims, is well underway. We can tell you we've seen one blue tarp with possible remains that were put into an ME's van. Not confirmed. We can only tell you what we saw with our own eyes, but that happened over the course of the last hour. Dozens of firefighters here responding to the major scene at what the signs are telling us is the El Ricardo apartment complex. We do know 4 people were transported. That was given to us. Crews are still obviously searching for anybody who may be missing. And on that note, we don't have a definitive number. They haven't shared that with us. Let me go back in time again. Video from earlier today. The flames you saw. One of the more intense moments when DFR crews were working so hard nonstop out there to get that fire out. Ended up being a 5-alarm response. What that means to you, a lot of firefighters. It would put the number of firefighters and rescuers responding here in the neighborhood of 100 or so. I will bring in Marvin Hurst into the conversation. Real quick, Marvin, we are on standby. Just want to let everybody know for a possible update from Daniel Como, Chief of DPD. As soon as he begins to speak, we're going to jump in. But meantime, I know you've gotten near the apartment building. Can you start us off with whatever you may know or not know, whether they're still definitively looking for people?
Well, yeah, I know that the search continues. As a matter of fact, a little while ago, they brought in a piece of equipment on that trailer that you see there. It had that equipment on it. It is off and down the street and doing what it is supposed to be doing. You know, according to Dallas Fire and Rescue, this all started at 1247 and the 400 block of East 9th Street. That's when one of their members reportedly heard an explosion. They're still trying to confirm that, but that's when the incident occurred. They rushed over to the scene there, and that's when everything took place. It's been going on ever since, and it just kind of morphed into what you described, that 5-alarm fire with all of the firefighters responding here, 4 people taken to the hospital, and now the search for possible bodies. We are, as you mentioned, waiting for an update, a second update. They came here to the scene just a little while ago to the tape right behind me, telling us that there was going to be a news conference at that second update that was going to happen just after 5 p.m. But this was lunchtime, Doug, lunchtime in an area filled with restaurants. This is livability. There's homes around here. There's a high school over here. People were going on with their daily lives at that time, and all of a sudden something happened. We do know that it was a gas leak. The Dallas Fire and Rescue did say that, but that there was an explosion. They're telling me we should go to the news conference that's happening right now.
Thank you so very much. We are definitely saddened about what has happened today in this Oak Cliff community. There are several supporting organizations that we want to take the opportunity to thank for the work that they're doing to assist us with this operation. The American Red Cross, Dallas Crisis Intervention Team, Dallas Emergency Management, Dallas Animal Services, of course, Dallas Fire Rescue, our Dallas Marshal's Office, the Dallas Police Department, our Dallas Street Response Team, Dallas Independent School District, Mental Health Services, Family Gateway, the Salvation Army, and our Transportation and Public Works Department. We could not do what we're doing in this moment without all of these departments and organizations and agencies working together, and so we are truly thankful for their support. At this time, I'd like to turn it over to Deputy Chief Berry, who will provide you with a more detailed update.
Right. Thank you for having me. Today, we as first responders were met with a sad situation. And at this time, I'd like to extend from the Dallas Fire Rescue Department and our first responders our heartfelt condolences in this time of bereavement for the families. We responded to a gas leak, reported gas leak. Our first responders, while they were en route to that gas leak, a subsequent explosion occurred. They called for the cavalry and called for an upscaled response, and where a one-alarm structure fire was transmitted, and it was immediately struck into a second alarm. We had the cavalry coming and help coming, but the explosion had already taken place. We, as first responders, our highest priority is life safety and the preservation of life. And so we take this to heart. We're very humbled by today's occasion. We don't take it lightly. However, there is still work to be done. So at this juncture, we have gone from rescue mode to recovery mode. We are still actively in recovery mode, and we may be in this mode for the next 2 to 4 hours, maybe extending this operation even beyond that. So at this time, that's what I have for you, and we will update you. I have to get back to our incident to continue to lead our guys and also take care of bringing this incident under a close. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I'm Assistant Chief Payco for Dallas Fire Rescue. We understand that this is a very challenging and expanding incident, and on arrival, our firefighters took great action in what they did. We thank them for what they were able to do and their continued efforts. It has been quite a challenge from the very beginning because this was expanding with multiple aspects of hazards that had to be addressed. With that, we also understand that this has the impact on the community as well. So we do ask for additional prayers and thoughts through the community for those affected and for those firefighters that continue to work through that. Again, thank you very much.
Chief Russ.
Assistant Chief Russ, also like to thank all the outside agencies that contribute to this incident as we continue to go through our recovery phase, and just think that the citizens of Dallas are blessed because we have multiple special teams in the city that usually get deployed on other big incidents. So this is nothing new for them. They are well trained, and they train all the time for incidents like this. So we feel very confident in their capabilities and that they will bring this to a closure. So with that, I'd like to thank everyone for coming out, and as we get more updates, we'll provide them to you.
How many people were involved? How many people lived in this building, please? And how many people are unaccounted for?
We're going to just take a couple of questions. Chief Berry?
So there have been some individuals that have been accounted for. We're working on getting a concise number for you. This is an active incident still. It's still under investigation. There are still phone calls that haven't been answered, and therefore it's still ongoing in terms of getting a total account for the number of people that that live at this residence.
Have there been any fatalities identified?
Yes, there have been fatalities at this point.
How many?
We can confirm that there are fatalities. We're still working through the recovery phase. So let us work through the recovery phase and give you a total number.
The tenant of the apartment complex told me the city was drilling a hole to get to their gas line. Can you confirm what led to what you believe led to this gas leak? Was there any city activity involved in terms of to carry on?
Yeah, I'm going to turn that over to
My name is Director Concarly. I'm the Director of the Department of Transportation and Public Works. I can confirm that the city had no active work in that area.
We'll take one more. Who was working on the area, though? Someone was working, according to multiple residents. Was this admin? Who was working on the street, please?
There was no work in the right-of-way. Everything else is still under investigation.
number of
And
people secured?
any of the other questions regarding Atmos will have to go to them.
Oh, Atmos isn't here.
Correct. So thank you all so much. We will provide one more update later this evening, likely between 8 and 9, but we'll keep you updated on that. Thank you so much.
To know what time did the first 911 call or whoever called wherever? What time did
Listening in on a press conference that just started about 4 or 5 minutes ago, and the most significant words that I heard spoken there were those from Deputy DFR Chief Mark Berry, and he said, quote, "Yes, there have been fatalities." The words you don't want to hear, but confirmation. We had our eyes on at least one that we could almost confirm, but Deputy Chief Berry now saying, yes, fatalities, plural, so at least 2, if not more. And he did talk about some people accounted for, but they are still working to get a definitive number. I don't think at the moment, based on what he said, they know exactly how many people even lived in the apartment complex. They're trying to nail that down. He said some phone calls have not been answered. No total count on those who lived there at the moment. So as he said, he's going back over now to get with the men and women of DFR who are doing yeoman's work right now, and they've moved from rescue to recovery mode. 2 to 4 hours more of looking through the rubble for any possible victims. Could be well into this night as well. Marissa Armas, one of the very first to get there this afternoon. Before we talk to her, I want to share with you what she sent us. This is video as she was literally just approaching the fire at East Oak Cliff. For reference, that was just after 1:30. You are still there, obviously. You've been able to talk to people who were around when it happened, and the story almost tells itself when you listen to people share with you what they heard and then what they saw.
Absolutely, and a very scary day for a lot of the residents in this community. As we just heard officials say there, they are now in recovery mode, and they say they will be for the next 2 to 4 hours. Now, we're here off of 10th and Denver, which is about a block and a half away from where that explosion happened. People tell me that it happened at the El Ricardo Apartments off of 409 East 9th Street. We are, again, about a block and a half away, and the situation has calmed down significantly. If you take a look back here, you can still see it's an active scene. We still have fire crews here on the ground, police officers in the area, and of course gas crews. A lot of this perimeter is still blocked off to the community. Many folks can't get back inside, but as we heard officials say, they do believe this started with a gas leak around 12:47. They say it was upgraded to a second alarm fire, then a 5-alarm fire, and now they're in recovery mode. We do know that we did see the medical examiners arrive here about an hour ago, and earlier today, as you mentioned, I did speak with witnesses who felt it and heard it. They tell me they heard a loud boom, folks telling me their homes were shaking, and here's more on what they had to say.
Well, I was inside of my apartment. I was getting ready to leave, and then I felt the whole building just shake. So I ran outside thinking that it was like one of my neighbors, but like all of the neighbors came out, and I started seeing like smoke. So I started rushing to see like what was happening, and well, I had just seen like a good chunk of the building missing, and there was this little girl who was like barely getting out of the debris. And after that, like the fire just started spreading, and like it started getting worse.
So I felt like a big boom. There was not one, but there was 2 of them. And then I took off running to the end of my street, because I live right there by the school, by James Bowie. That's how far we felt it. And then I got my car, came down here. There was multiple injuries. So I talked to a few people. It was a glass explosion. Paramedics, firefighters, everybody just showed up all at once.
A very scary day here. Several residents tell me that there are at least 10 units inside that apartment complex. We have noticed that a lot of people are trying to get back inside their homes, folks who live on the block, but they're not being allowed to. Many people are also out here looking for their animals, searching for their furry friends. They are being told to go to the Dallas Animal Shelter right now. Again, a pretty tragic day here, as we did hear officials confirm there are fatalities. They couldn't tell us how many, but we're still hoping and praying for those families. Doug?
Yeah, this is going to be a very sobering day and night ahead for at least one family, if not more. And we're thinking about them all. Marissa, thanks so very much. I want to get to First Alert Chief Meteorologist McKenna King. So we got some weather to talk about, obviously, especially west sides of town. But to the fire itself, 5-alarm fire, nearly 100 firefighters in that neighborhood out there. What kind of temperatures were they working in out there today?
I mean, it's hot out there, right? We felt it if you stepped outside at any point. We're talking temps in the mid to upper 80s, but those feels like temps are even higher because you have to factor in that dew point. Those Those dew points are in the upper 60s and low 70s. That is that very muggy feel to the air. Here's what you'll see across Dallas County. Downtown Dallas in the middle 80s, but it feels like 90. That is the case through most of the Metroplex, certainly through Dallas and through Tarrant counties. We do have a couple of showers and storms around. Fortunately, none of that storm activity is in Dallas County. The last thing you want to deal with right now is lightning when you are talking that fire and recovery effort. We do have some light drizzle activity that has really fizzled along 30 into Dallas County just in the last few minutes. No lightning strikes within 15 miles of Dallas County. We get off to the west, though. This is through a portion of Parker and Tarrant counties. This now does head into a portion of Hood and Johnson counties. This is a severe thunderstorm warning in effect for winds of upwards of 60 miles per hour and hail upwards of quarter-sized. So that is an inch in diameter. That is enough to do some damage. If you do live in that warned area, this is just off to the west of Crowley. This heads into Joshua there in Johnson County. This is just off to the east of Granbury, and this is south of Weatherford, just south of 20. That is a strong storm that is moving off to the southeast through that area. It's something we'll continue to watch, but that warning is in effect currently until 6 o'clock this evening. Here's that wider view across North Texas of where those storms lie. We do still have some storm activity off to our northeast as well. You'll notice that up along the Red River. Nothing warned currently. It is something that we will watch. We do have the instability to work with, the heat, the humidity, and then you travel along 20, and we do have that storm activity just west of Fort Worth, just west of Tarrant County. That's been our strongest storm that we've been watching for the last hour, hour and a half or so. And then down to the southwest, we do have some additional storm activity. I'll continue to keep an eye on that and bring you updates as we get through the newscast, Doug.
Okay, thanks so much, McKenna. Live picture from CBS News Texas Chopper. And again, Deputy DFR Chief Mark Berry confirming in the last few minutes that, yes, there have been fatalities. You can easily read that as more than one. How many, we don't know. They don't even know at this hour how many people were living here. They're working to ascertain that information. Continuing coverage live here on CBS News Texas.
Your CBS Texas primetime lineup is sponsored by HealthSpring Medicare Plans. Put a spring in your step.
Welcome back. CBS News Texas. Live look for you at the remnants of what is the likely explosion, not definitive, but highly likely. And then fire, of course, at what signs tell us is the El Ricardo Apartments. Methodist Hospital this afternoon confirming they took in a patient. Parkland, we talked to them. They also received a patient. They told us theirs was in good condition when they received them. We do know 115 firefighters in all. Rescue personnel on the scene. DFR confirmed about 10 minutes ago multiple fatalities, but they are not ready to share with us any kind of definitive number, and that is because of what you see here. So many rescue personnel on scene, but now it is in search mode and will continue until they tell us they're done. But yes, at this very hour, they are looking for more possible victims in all the rubble at the El Ricardo Apartments. So we've got one eye on that. We also have first alert weather as well. West sides of town, if you're looking outside, I know you've seen dark skies. Let's talk about it. McKenna, anything serious with the weather right now, or not so much?
We do have a severe thunderstorm warning, that one that is moving through portions of Parker, Tarrant counties, headed into Hood and Johnson counties. That's one we'll continue to keep an eye on. Outside of that, it is also very hot, and it is humid too. You'll take a look at Dallas, where we are sitting at 85 degrees, but 85 feels like 90 when you are factoring in that humidity, and it is humid across North Texas. Fort Worth sits at 84, but those feels like temps, even with that cloud coverage, are into the upper 80s. So it is hot out. It is hot for those firefighters who are continuing these rescue efforts in Dallas County. For us in Fort Worth, look at this. Over the last couple of hours, this is a time lapse. You'll see the shower that is just off to our west. You can see some of that upper level rotation that we often see in the upper levels of thunderstorms. And that's what we see just off to the west of us here along 30. We topped out at 88 degrees this afternoon at DFW. That does put us right near normal for this point in the year. 87 is average. Our morning lows in the upper 60s. Those were also right near normal this morning. The clouds are starting to fill in, though, and this is the cloud coverage that you could see just to the west of the station here. That is thanks to that thunderstorm cell that is moving out of Parker County, now headed towards spots like Cleburne. Cleburne is not currently included in that severe warned storm, but Cleburne, you are in the line of fire. So we'll see if that storm can maintain its strength as it does push closer. Good news is, as I watch these last few radar scans, it does look like it's starting to weaken, maybe just ever so slightly, but that is a warning for hail and also for gusty winds. We're talking hail upwards of quarter-sized and also winds upwards of 60 miles per hour. So that is that severe criteria. Let's talk rainfall over the next couple of days and into the upcoming weekend. We are still looking at some rain over the next week. Once again, May is typically our wettest month of the year. This weekend, though, is looking better than what we've seen the last few days. We have had rain every day of the last 8 at DFW. The rain's been heavier across other spots, though. We talked about that yesterday. Portions of northern Tarrant County, places like Hearst, where we've seen nearly 8 inches of rain in the last few days. Tomorrow and Saturday, we're looking at just very isolated chances. Rain you see on the map there Saturday falls in the early morning. I do think we're mainly dry on Sunday. Just talking very isolated activity into the upcoming weekend. That's that 10 to 20% coverage that you will see on that graphic there. Temperature-wise, though, things are heating up and those dew points are rising. So as a result, this weekend, temperatures in the low to middle 90s will feel closer to the upper 90s and close to the triple digits. So this is going to be a time where you want to make sure you are staying hydrated, make sure you're taking frequent breaks in the shade. It is a weekend. Lots of folks want to be outside. Just make sure you are taking those heat precautions as we head into the weekend. Monday is June 1st, which marks the start of meteorological summer, and it will feel like every bit of summer with temperatures hanging steady in the middle 90s. We hang on to those low-end storm chances through the first of next week. Better storm chances by the middle of next week, Doug.
I think we'd all agree we've been living on borrowed time with the cooler temps this spring. So we continue, obviously, to follow the breaking news out of Dallas near Bishop Arts. Reported explosion and the big fire at an apartment complex. This is back in time, a little after the 1:30 hour. This is what it looked like then. And tonight, DFR confirms, sadly, multiple fatalities, and the search for more possible victims is ongoing at this very hour. They tell us this will go well into the night. Nearing the 5:30 half hour, latest for you out of Dallas's Bishop Arts District after people in the neighborhood tell us an explosion led to this massive and intense fire this afternoon. The apartment building is gone. We know 4 people were transported. There are definitely multiple fatalities, that according to DFR, and crews are still right now searching for anyone who may be missing or unaccounted for. Bring Aaron Jones into the conversation real quick. You were at that news conference that we all listened in on about 15 minutes ago. Multiple fatalities, the words nobody wanted to hear.
Yes, and I think somber is the perfect way to describe how this press conference went. The biggest piece of information that we learned, like you said, multiple fatalities. Now, we did ask the city to go into detail about this, but at this time, they say that they're still learning more information, that there's still people who are unaccounted for that they're trying to get in contact with. Now, I also asked about the injuries, if there's any update on the injuries, and they say at this time it appears only 4 people have been transported to the hospital that they know of. So obviously a terrible situation here. You never want to hear about that. Another question that some of the tenants that we've been speaking to here at the reunification center had, they were asking about the city. There had been reports that maybe they had been doing some drilling near the apartment complex today. The city confirmed to us that there were no active city crews there. Also, we heard from the deputy fire chief, and he says that they've gone from active mode into recovery mode. And then, of course, there's a giant effort here at the reunification center at Dallas ISD's Adamson High School. You can see here behind me, we just saw someone who looked obviously injured. There's people with a lot of questions here, still a lot of questions that have gone unanswered that we've been asking, and we've been talking to some of the tenants at the apartment that have been affected by all of this, and we'll share some of what they have to say coming up in our later newscasts. But for now, back to you, Doug.
Aaron, thank you so very much. We appreciate it. Yeah, multiple fatalities, what we definitely don't want to hear. Please stay with CBS News Texas through this night as the story continues to unfold. More coverage, obviously, throughout the evening. You can always find the latest at cbsnewstexas.com. But for now, please just take a moment out of your evening. Think about all those families who are affected tonight. With that, thanks for watching and putting your trust in CBS News Texas. Always here for you. cbsnewstexas.com and the Pluto TV app. CBS Evening News with Tony DeCopel coming.